Hey, this is Brian Stewart, and you're listening to Southern Fried Geekery. I make things like the official Kiss magazine and cookies.
Hey, and welcome back to another episode of the Southern Fried Geekery podcast. And this is episode 49, guys. We're about to hit the 50 mark. I can't believe this. As always, I am Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
I'm Craig Lance.
I'm Shonen.
And I'm Jerry.
And we are coming to you live from deep in the heart of Arkansas, as we always do, sitting around our beloved studio, also known as Craig's Kitchen.
Yes.
Dining room.
Well, dining room,
has a
sorry.
name.
It does.
Kitchen adjacent.
It is kitchen adjacent. There are eating utensils nearby.
that we cannot touch.
You guys, everybody doing all right this week?
Yeah.
Not too bad.
I survived it.
It is a week of survival.
Pretty
I feel
much.
like that's a qualifier.
How are you, Caleb?
I'm tired. Other than that, I'm good. I did. It was a long but good night. I'm glad to do it. So, for those of you who don't know what Sean's talking about, we are now at the stage of winter where we are dipping below the 25-degree mark at night, and that means emergency shelters are opening. And so, you guys know I volunteer with the van. So, on any night that it's either below 32 degrees with winter precipitation or 25 and dry, you can find me, my blasphemous ass, at a church downtown.
Not on fire.
Not on fire.
Impressively enough.
Letting folks sleep, which is what I like to do. So, good times. Other than that, yeah, everything's going great.
Hi, Jerry. How are you?
I'm here.
Oh, did we not let Jerry talk?
I mean, we were doing a pretty good job of not letting him talk, but I decided to break it up.
I was looking at our outline. I'm doing great, though. Yeah, pretty good.
You look lovely
Good
this
things.
morning.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
That's because I have my hat on.
You do, and you should leave it that way.
Yep. It's staying this way forever.
Just got to go shave it like Sean and I, and then you don't have to worry about it.
No, I'm good.
Are we salty today? Is that the general consensus? Is this going to be a salty episode?
I feel like it's all emanating from you. You're projecting.
I'm a salt mine. I'm like Lot's wife, but with a penis and not dead.
He's like that planet in
So nothing
Star
like
Wars.
So yeah, no, I'm actually not biblical at all.
And that's your Sunday sermon for the day. Moving on to comic books.
What was that, Crate?
What?
The salt planet in
Yeah.
Star Wars? Yeah.
He went Star Wars.
He
which
did.
Is the other religion we discuss often on this.
So Sean, you did some drawings this week, did you not, man?
I did do some.
What'd you do, buddy?
As always, our listeners, friends, family, Southern Fried family always give me a lot of fun requests. This week was no different. It started off with actually an art trade from one Dean Stahl. He hit us up asking, he wanted to do a drawing for one of my drawings. He requested Metallo from DC Comics. Again, the great part about these requests are characters. I know the character, but I never would have drawn him on my own. So
Right.
that was really cool to get to draw him. And and as it was a trade, I requested Asuka from WWE because he also seems to be a wrestling fan.
Nice. Yeah, he's a good dude. I know him from the 11 O'Clock Comics community,
wow.
so
Yeah, awesome.
good guy.
That was really fun to draw. Side note, I made sure to do the DC Universe, a cartoon version of Metallica. That's the one I'm actually familiar with.
Right.
After that, I had Gage from Pet Sematary versus Chucky from the Child's Play movie, as requested by one, Larry Lilly. After that, this one hit a little close to home. Actually, it goes back to me and Jerry's first meeting. Nick Helms requested Charmeleon from Pokemon as a GameStop employee at the counter being annoyed by little Squirtles. So of course, I turned into the Squirtle Squad from Pokemon.
You just have to.
And I put in some dialogue that was actual quotes from some of my own very own nice young customers that came into GameStop. Everything from small youth running up to the counter yelling, "You got Def Jam Icon? Where is it?"
I don't know what that is.
You don't need to know. It's
Okay.
a shit-tacular game. But that kid wanted it bad. To just a simple small lad in front of the DS case, screaming at the top of his lungs, Mario Kart. That's all he was yelling. Mario Kart.
It's okay to kick those kids. You know that, right?
Nerd fandom.
They're so little and
special
quick.
fandom group.
They're quick. They're hard to catch.
I feel like there was a missed opportunity to put me as a Pokemon in there, asking like, "Oh man, it's really coming down out there. You guys aren't closed."
Only if I want to do a side panel where I'll also tell you to go fuck off. Which is what I really probably wanted to tell you at that moment. GameStop was not a happy time for me.
Pickle Rick.
If Jerry wasn't such a special, loving person, we wouldn't be friends. Because he remembered me from GameStop. I didn't even remember the interaction until he reminded me. He was just another fuck coming into the store, harassing me during a snowstorm when I got bald tires and nothing in the back of my truck. And I tend to fishtail coming down the North Hills.
And that, kids, is the Jerry and Sean meet cute.
That is our origin story. You got exclusive, which I think we've also discussed before.
It's the better version of Friends.
But yes.
Everything is the better version
So,
of Friends.
So thank you, Nick Hells, for requesting that drawing and bringing up bad memories. After that, I did the worm from Labyrinth. I don't know if that thing actually has a name or not, but that's what Stephanie Straw called it when she requested. And that was fun to draw. That was a great memory. I love Labyrinth.
Yeah.
It's a great movie.
Following that, I was requested to draw Smash Brothers Ultimate, which is the new game that just released this week. That was from Nick Perry. And since it's such a large cast of characters in that game, I said, damn, drawing all of them. My favorite scene in the trailer where it showed all the characters being possessed by evil was just Kirby to fight them, which I fucking love that idea. I'm not a Smash Brothers fan, but I like that idea.
Yeah.
For the story mode, they kind of added it.
We actually played a little bit of it last night. John got it.
Awesome.
It is fucking ridiculous to play with that little side chuck.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, those are tiny, even for you with small hands.
Yeah, I mean, they look like big hearts.
They look like strong hands. After that, speaking of Jerry,
I don't know what's going on here.
get used to it, old man.
I love it when I'm not the gayest one at the table.
You often feel that way around Jerry, though.
I mean, it's you at this point.
Bitch, please. After that, speaking of Jerry and gayness, I was requested to draw Jerry washing chapstick 2 times, as I believe you shared it on Facebook.
He did.
The tough times you had with chapstick.
I found the workaround for this.
Yeah,
is I put it in my jacket pocket now because I never wash my jacket.
You know what the workaround for it is? Check your pockets before you wash your clothes.
That just sounds like a lot of work.
The other workaround is my wife suggesting that I put into the drawing, because that was her first reaction after seeing your post of being traumatized by washing it twice. It was 80 fucking cents. Go buy another one.
By the way, Chapstick 2 times is my new SoundCloud rap name. So look for that new hot single getting dropped.
I have actually since been gifted even more chapstick. So
you're unworthy.
Yeah,
it's because I felt bad for Stephanie because you keep washing her chapstick,
stealing, and then thus washing and destroying her chapstick. And finally,
that was by John Casey.
That was from John Casey.
Hey,
Thank
John.
you. I almost skipped you. I'm sorry, Joe. And finally, yesterday's drawing was Disney's The Gummy Bears, as requested by our good friend Davina. I mentioned her Instagram before. It's Vina Love Bracelets. She does a lot of crafty, cool stuff. Feel free to check it out. And that was actually a really fun one to draw. I love that cartoon back in the day.
Yeah.
I don't know that I ever watched it.
Why not?
I just did. It wasn't in my wheelhouse, or I didn't have the channels.
It was. I think it was a bit
That
more in the
might have been
80s
it,
than the 90s. When
probably.
It may not. By the time you were watching Disney cartoon, it was probably more like Darkwing Duck and the newer Gargoyles.
Yeah.
Like
It was
that
probably more to my year time. Yeah.
Well, but also as I've stated before, when I was growing up, my family didn't have satellite or cable. We had the basic 4 channels that you get through your analog.
He put his brother out in the
Antenna.
yard with wires.
I was that kid.
He was the one.
Yeah, no, my brother was 10 years younger than I was, so I was the one who got set out in a thunderstorm to turn the antenna.
Turn the antenna. Yeah.
Antenna.
My parents really wanted me to die.
That was about as southern as I've ever heard him talk.
Antenna.
I'm
from Montana.
I bet you didn't know that Antenna is my cover band for my Santana music.
And they opened for Chapstick 2 times.
He was the headliner. And the top it all off at the end of it. Also, you're welcome for everyone except Caleb, who now has the Gummy Bears theme song stuck in their head.
Right.
But
that'll do it for this week. Keep the requests coming. They're always fun. Like I said, I'm going to continue this past my New Year's resolution, which I've held strong with the help of all you good people.
I don't know if you saw it or not, but we got a message on our Instagram page asking for a request. I'll show it to you after
I do try to stay on top of it.
It's in they sent as a DM on our thing, so check it. I think it was from Nancy, a friend of mine and a listener of the show. She had a request. But for those of you who want to request things from Sean, you can go on our Facebook page. We have a group set up that we all hang out in quite regularly and share news and talk about stuff and ask Sean to draw things. And you can do the same thing on Twitter and Instagram as well. We're at SFG Podcast on both of those places. So that's a good place to reach us. It's one of the best ones. And you got it. All right.
I got it now.
So before we move on to listener questions, I want to kind of do a shout out because for the past 2 months, I guess somehow I just missed it, but we have 2 people who have listened to our show that are a couple that are proud parents now.
Oh, nice.
And actually, like I said, I'm behind. The little baby turned 2 months old. I want to say yesterday or the day before. But Joy and Jonathan Reinbold are
Congratulations.
brought in a new nerdling into the world, and his name is Obadiah, but they nicknamed him Obi because John is a huge Star Wars fan, and so I thought you would
Water that child and let him grow.
yes, the next generation is here. So congratulations, guys! He's
Congrats.
beautiful. Can't wait to actually get a chance to meet him. Hopefully over my little winter break. I will go play.
Very
with him.
cool. Congrats.
All right, so listener questions. Again, this is another thing that we started doing. If you guys want to ask us virtually anything, we really don't. We have kind of a no holds bar. I mean, within reason. But you can go on our Facebook page. I usually keep a tab linked to the top of the page, which I don't right now because we have our 2018 best of list at the top of our page. But
Yeah, and
Just-
go make sure you fill that out.
yeah,
please.
absolutely, because that's going to help us do our end of the year episode. But yeah, you can ask us questions on there and answer just about anything, or we'll find a way to work it into the show. For instance, we have 3 questions this week that don't necessarily I think they were meant in jest, but we're going to work them into the show. So
Yeah.
the first one comes from our good friend Mr. Larry Lilly, who also runs a local con here in Arkansas called Not Another Comic Con.
Or not just
another
yeah,
Comic-Con.
no.
We're friends with him.
Right,
We'll get it right
We
eventually.
know this man.
it's a long name. Anyway,
Our first convention was actually at his show.
it was yeah.
First panel and everything.
So he asks, what is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow? Now, I don't know the answer to this question, but I do know where it comes
But
from.
we
I
do
bet
have to
Greg does.
ask, we're talking European or African swallow?
That's a good question. Yeah. It stems from Monty Python and the Quest for the Holy Grail, which is hilarious.
Amazing film.
So I kind of switched this up because I honestly don't think that there is an answer to that question. Who knows?
They certainly don't answer it in the movie.
No, coconuts. Coconuts is the answer. But what is your favorite Monty Python one-liner?
To be honest, it's not even necessarily like a lot. It's part of a line, but it's the part that I didn't get until, for whatever reason, I watched Monty Python and the Holy Grail with subtitles on. When John Cleese is I think he was supposed to have been French, taunting King Arthur
Yes.
and them. And he's giving all sorts of insults, and they're all hilarious and great. Then he called them Kniggets. I'm like, I don't know what that means. It's funny sounding.
It's like, wait a minute.
And he's like, Kniggets. I was like, what the? And I saw the subtitles, and he was saying knights.
Yep.
I did not catch that for years. And that still stays with me to this day. Like, that's amazing.
I was today years old.
Today years old when it was like however long ago when I actually saw the subtitles.
I have a feeling there's a billion of those things in that
Oh,
movie
I'm
that
sure.
we just
Absolutely.
laugh at. But
That's
we,
just the first one that comes to my head, to be
Yeah.
honest. You can go all day with all their movies, but I'm going to throw that one out if I'm just throwing one.
one of mine is, of course, straight when it's Dennis and the old
Yes.
lady and King Arthur is riding by, and they're arguing about government, and he's like, "Well, who appointed you king?" Blah blah blah, and he's like, "Strange women lying in ponds and distributing swords is no basis for a government system." That's one of my. You want to like try and read it in English accent, but
Oh, dude, and just like when he reiterated that same
Yeah.
statement by going, "The watery tart lodging a scimitar at me is not going to make me a king."
No, he said, yeah, something about if I went around claiming to be emperor because a watery tart threw a scimitar at me,
Like,
you'd think
yeah.
I was bad. Yeah, it's hilarious, man. That whole scene cracks me up.
I probably have the least watched Monty Python out of our
Because
group.
you're a terrible person.
Yeah. So I mean, the one that I've seen the most, and that still isn't that many times, is the Holy Grail.
Yeah, that's what everybody's seen the most,
Yeah,
probably.
yeah. So it would definitely have to be the confrontation with the Black Knight.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
just a flesh wound.
Yeah.
Maybe a flesh wound. What are you going to do? Bleed on me?
So mine comes from the beginning of the film when they're kind of like walking through the English countryside, and one of the serfs is getting attacked. He says, "Help! Help! I'm being oppressed." I lose it every time.
Then I have one from Life of Brian.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic.
Was
So-
Life of Brian the Viking one?
No, Life
No,
of Brian
which-
is when the guy's born, and he's born on the same day as Jesus, and he's
Okay,
like,
yeah.
people think he's the Messiah through the
They
whole
had
thing.
the testaments on the cover for it, right?
I believe so,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And so, like, there's a scene where, like, everybody's at his house waiting for him to come out and talk to him, and he's standing there butt naked with his girlfriend standing there butt naked, and his mom hollers out, "He's not the Messiah, he's a naughty boy."
Yeah, you can't go through Monty Python without, like, all the movies have one-liners, and like not even just their lines. Sometimes it's just the subtle comedy. One of my favorite moments was actually in The Meaning of Life, which is like an anthology movie where there's a whole bunch of skits. And towards the end, you get to this waiter. It's he's just like, you know what? You want to know the meaning of life? Follow me. And it's a long, like, no music, no nothing. Following him through a field for like almost like 3 minutes straight. I'm just like, come on, just come on. And he gets to a house. That's my home. That's my family. You want to know the meaning of life? It's that. That's what the meaning of life is. And there's no reaction for a second. He's like looking more and more uncomfortable. Well, that's what it means to me. Fuck you. We've all been there. We have something we really think is really important, really deep, and no one cares.
Yeah.
We've all been there.
And Flying Circus was really good too. I don't know. There's a ton of them.
You could go on forever.
Yeah,
we could
Monty,
do this all day.
We should probably do a Monty Python episode at some point.
should.
All right, and so
You're watching them with me, Jerry.
This next one comes from our buddy Frankie DeJesus. And he wants to know, what the hell is Caleb's major anyway? Which is a really good question.
Salt.
Yes, I am majoring salt. No, I'm a English and creative writing major with a pre-law minor, and I'm going to use that to hopefully get into law school. I've sent in my applications, and we'll see. I don't know. Fingers crossed. I don't suck.
Caleb didn't care about our answers. He just wanted to answer it.
Yeah.
Well, but anyway. So if you could major in geek college, what would your major in geek college be? I can give you mine. I would get a PhD in Smash. PhD in
That's not geek.
because Hulk.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, PhD in I would have my
Smash,
doctorate.
I went somewhere completely
Exactly.
different.
True.
As you should.
Look, no, I'm
That's
good
called
on
a
that.
PhD in smashing.
Yes.
Yeah, which is a pretty huge dick, and I'm good in that department.
Oh my God.
So anyway.
Episode's canceled.
No,
Everyone
my
go on.
degree would be in Tales to Astonish. That way I'd get my doctorate in Namor and Hulk studies. That's what I want. What about you, Craig?
Yeah, mine would probably be in sequential art.
Okay.
I'd probably major in
You want to go with
sequential
religious studies and study the Force?
I mean, I am
Sith studies.
a Jedi Knight.
You are.
I
He's
am
going to
an
be that
ordained
one gym
Jedi
teacher
Knight.
that's also a history teacher.
Right.
All gym teachers
Yeah.
are history teachers. That's not one. That's all of them.
Right.
Honestly, mine in geek college would probably be an art degree, which would still be useless in the real world.
Damn.
Joking for all you art majors out there. Yes. But no, it would definitely be in the arts. Like I said, sequential art, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
Like, much as I like doing my doodles, I'm envious of people who can do panel-to-panel work.
I'd pick Japanese history for you.
What would you pick
Yeah, I
for
know.
you, though,
On the
Jared?
hard streets of Japan, I learned them when we were there last year.
It would probably be something to do with like tokusatsu, with live action Japanese stuff. I need to know all of the things about it.
Craig didn't say bless you, so I'm going to.
Bless you.
There you go.
So you'd get a degree in tokusatsu.
Yeah,
Cool.
toku.
No one knows what that is.
No.
except for
Giant,
you.
giant robots and spandex.
Oh, okay. Now I know what it is.
Yeah, see?
Wait, giant robots in spandex?
And
Yes.
spandex.
And spandex.
wow.
I've
It's,
had a
it's,
Spandex
it's all,
as well.
Well,
it's
you
all
can-
the live action Japanese stuff
Oh, sweet.
with
Power Rangers.
superheroes and stuff.
Yeah, Power Rangers.
We'd know
Kamen
this if we paid
Rider.
attention to Manga Ramen.
He doesn't listen at all.
I ask questions in Manga Ramen.
He does.
I pick in the key moments.
if I let you speak.
Right. So this next one, the last one, comes from Frankie as well. And he wants to know, what is the most emotional comic or manga that you've ever read? And it doesn't necessarily have to be sad. This one was a tough one because there are a ton. There are a ton of comics that have really just hit us in the chest. And I'm sure we're probably going to have some overlap here.
I mean, I'm pretty sure all three of us would have picked the same one.
Which would be...
One Piece.
I'm treating that like the
Oh, yeah.
Luffy, like it's too obvious. I'm going to try to go there.
Yeah, I've got three in my head that I feel like
It didn't
only
say
one
three.
person would have. It doesn't matter.
But we're going to do
Anyways,
it
go
anyway.
ahead. Finish your thing, Caleb.
Oh, so no, I was curious to listen to what you guys have to say. Mine would probably be either My Favorite Thing is Monsters or
That's a good
I
one.
Kill Giants. Both of those, it doesn't matter how many times I read them, I get to that moment. And largely it's the same moment, the same theme in each book. There's a parental figure that passes away in both of those books. And even though I know it's coming, even though it builds up to it, you know, even the first time you're reading it, you know it's going to happen. It is a sad moment. I know Frankie said it didn't have to be, but for me, they are.
I mean, when
I
you
cry.
talk about emotions and
Yeah.
something, it's usually going to evoke sadness. I know he said it didn't have to be that. But
Yeah.
It's either going to be like that hell yes moment or the sadness.
I said, even though we want to bring up One Piece, it's the one I always bring up, though. Like, it's not a sad moment. It is, though, that emotion, though, is the Arlong fight with Nami begging for help.
There's
Still gives goosebumps.
So many scenes like that.
That's all of One Piece. That's why I'm necessarily going to bring that up. Other ones I want to recommend is one I mentioned recently in a movie review is Kaiji the Gambler. It's an underrated anime manga that's not really well known, but you want to talk about just tension, if that can be an emotion, whatever, stress. The whole time he's gambling, it is a mind game. And the way the writer and creator puts this one out, like, you feel like you're reading a damn book, but you feel like you're about to lose your life to this gamble, the way he just draws you in. It's definitely one of the ones I would definitely recommend. It's definitely high emotion on the manga front.
Yeah, it's one of the manga that I believe Sean and I actually discussed a while back, Gantz.
Yes.
Like, at times it gets so bleak, and at other times it gets so hopeful, and, like, there's just so much struggle, especially towards the end, and then, like, the payoff, is just, it's just so worth it, like, after everything that happens throughout the series, and it elicited a lot of emotions in me and everything, and it was really good.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
I have a couple. Recently, The Funeral for Roy Harper.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that one hit me pretty good. The Funeral for Ultimate Peter Parker was a good one. The Death of Morpheus in Sandman. Spoilers.
I was going to... You mentioned those, so I'm also bringing up a spoiler, which we already spoiled a while ago. But I'm going to say spoiler again. Marco Saga.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, that's hard. That was
Mm-hmm.
hard feels right there.
The Love is Love anthology. That not only makes me sad, it makes me fucking furious.
Yeah.
And so that would be one that, just getting away from books that make you feel sad.
Where We Live Here.
Or where we live.
Where We Live, yeah.
The one for Vegas just makes me, like, these books make me livid that they even have to be made.
Right.
And so that's one that really gets away from sadness and more into just emotional anger and a little bit of just disappointment in our society.
A couple of hell yeah kind of moments in comics. Well, one off the top of my head is when Apollo hit Superman with the power of the sun, and then Superman was just like, "Really? Thank you," and then just knocked Apollo into like 18 issues later before we saw him again.
I think I talked about it in a trade issue or a trade episode one time. It was Spider-Man Reign.
Yeah.
Which, it was very underrated. Like, not a lot of people liked it because of the art, but just the amount of
art that book.
Yeah. But I mean, and like, just the struggles that he goes through in that book, and like, there's so much emotion in it of everything that he's dealing with and everything that he tried to shut away and everything. And then like the ultimate thing at the end is almost like the hero's sacrifice, against all odds, he succeeds against, that really hit me. Another one that I was going to mention, Watchmen. That's a book that like really makes you think and makes you like really feel for a lot of these characters' struggles and everything.
For sure.
Yeah.
I was going to say also for the gambit of emotions from, like I said, happiness to sadness to hell yeah moments is Preacher.
Yeah, for sure.
The journey of Jesse Custer is like from, like I said, high points to low points to, him punching a fucking Klansman. It was just hell yeah moments.
There's a ton. And you know what? There are some amazing books out there, and they're done by some amazing writers and artists that really know how to tap into your emotions, to be able to convey those really strong human feelings and pull from the well of empathy. So that's what art does. So, all right, well, we're going to move on because those are really good questions. Please come on our social media, request more drawings, ask more stuff. We love talking about it. As you can tell, we get into it. But there's been a lot of stuff that's happened in the last week. So we're going to move on to a little bit of nerd news. Jerry, why don't you start us off with what you got?
Okay, so one of the new things that was actually announced this week, which I thought was pretty interesting because I've, since I guess September, been a subscriber to Shonen Jump. And how they've had it is they have like specific series that are free. And then you get your weekly Shonen Jump magazine, which is comprised of like all the new stuff for that week. It's released the same day as Japan. Well, what they just announced this week is they're making some changes. Previously, subscription was like $2.99. They're lowering it to $1.99 a month. Instead of doing it in a magazine format, you get all of the issues come out every week under their own like title and everything. You also, one of the big things that they're really pushing for, because of the all of the pirating sites that they've had for a while. One of the big complaints that they've had from readers and stuff is they don't have that ability to catch up cheaply anyway, because you'd have to go back through and buy all of their manga volumes. They're adding like over 100,000 manga volumes chapters that you could read and everything like that.
Ultimately, it's supposed to be the entire catalog.
Yeah.
Right.
Every manga, every Shonen Jump series
Yep.
that you have. And then if you're not a subscriber, you get the 3 newest chapters of, all your favorite stuff. So I kind of figure how they're going to do that is each time a new one comes out, the other, like the last one that
They'll
did.
just drop it off.
Yeah. And then whenever the whole volume comes out, they'll probably release all of that for free. I thought it sounded like a great idea, especially if people were like still, not sold. I mean, it's $1.99
This
a
is
month.
absolutely a way to eliminate pirating.
This
And
is
if
a
you're
big-
still pirating manga after this, shame on you.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
seriously,
There's no
for
longer
$1.99,
And
you're getting it the same day as Japan, and you're getting eventually the entire back catalog.
Yeah.
Right.
It-
You
it's
should
a,
not be pirating manga anymore.
it's a money move. It is a big money
Well, it's a
move.
smart move
Yeah.
on their part because they're losing all of that income right now.
And there is a catch though. You can only read and download up to 100 chapters a day. So
Well, only 100 chapters a day.
so if you read more than 100 chapters a day, I'm sorry, but
If you read more than 100 chapters a day, my hat's off to you.
right.
I mean, I guess that sound you're hearing right now is the wailing and gnashing of otaku teeth.
What?
Oh, I'm sorry. Another cool thing about it is if you were already a subscriber, you get 3 months for free.
Oh, nice.
So whenever my time is up in September
You'll get 3
of
free
next
months.
year, I'll get 3 extra months before I have to renew.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, like, this is amazing. Like, this is good. This is a smart way to do it. And I think, while Shonen Jump is definitely the big dog in Japan and over here, I need more companies I hope will follow suit.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like I said, there is, with this price tag, there's no reason to be pirating manga.
Right.
But there kind of is in certain aspects of, like, I'm going to use a personal example, which, yes, admittedly, I had to read every single one of these manga volumes of one of my favorite manga out there called A History of Strongest Disciple, Kenichi. It's not published by Shonen Jump. It's published by one of their other companies. It's never been released here.
Right.
500 fucking chapters of one of my favorite mangas out there, and I can't buy it.
Yeah.
I've read it all online. I want to buy it if they would ever publish
That's
it.
failed on there.
Yeah, that's what I
And
mean.
you would
Like,
buy it if
other
if you
companies
could.
need to do this so
Yeah.
we can get the other
Yeah.
manga that's out there.
And and Crunchyroll actually has a bunch of those as well if you have a Crunchyroll. But they still don't have like the vast library that and it's kind of crazy because Shonen has more series than just Shonen Jump.
Yeah.
They have a whole different categories. So I kind of feel like it almost needs to evolve a little more and we need to add more Shonen series to this instead of just having Shonen
They will
Jump
probably
and stuff
have a
like that.
subscription service for each one of their
Yeah.
Yeah,
deals.
they have like Young
ultimately.
Jump and there's other subsidiaries of Shonen Jump basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's still great. It's awesome. But I just want more companies to follow suit so we can get all the other manga that's not published by Shonen Jump.
And hey, Japan, while you're at it, give me my streaming service for all my awesome Toku shows.
Yes.
I want to watch Super Sentai the week it comes out.
I get it.
But jumping into television, we also have learned this week that Brian K. Vaughn has signed a 3-year deal with Legendary Entertainment. Now, they haven't announced what, if any of his properties that are going to be published. Of course, the first name that I know all of us, as well as I'm sure a lot of you out there, thought of is Saga. Nope.
Why the Last Man?
Yep.
Why the Last Man's already optioned by
That's
somebody.
already going to be it.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah,
I
that's
didn't
why
know
I
that
didn't.
was
That's
part
been
of
in
it,
work
though.
for a while.
Yeah, that's not. I don't think
Caleb.
it's legendary,
Okay.
but
But
that's been
somebody else
optioned.
has had that
Yeah.
for a while. Yeah.
So that's
But-
why I didn't go to why.
Ex Machina.
And only
Nobody here has read this.
I've
Read
read
that,
it.
have they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm going to. It's on my.
Oh no, I love it. I love
you
it.
have it? Do you
I have
own
some
it?
of it. Yeah,
Some of it.
yeah. I don't have the whole series, but I've read the whole series.
But absolutely. But like, say if
He
the wireless
pirated
man,
it.
Huh?
I said
Crank said
pirated
a
it.
thing.
Oh
No, it's all
We
good.
stand on guard. That's what it's going to be, right?
Yeah, probably.
That would be amazing, actually.
The man has written a bunch
Yeah.
of good stuff. I mean, like I said, if Why the Last Man falls through the other way, maybe it'll come through this way. Saga, give them the Game of Thrones budget, and that could work. You know, I mean, they'd have to get like, I don't know if Legendary does series or just movies. I'm not
It's
really sure.
it's going to be television series.
Okay.
So the whole point is to start a television series
Yeah.
with it with his comic products. Sorry about that, guys.
Oh,
I'm having the morning dumbs. He did Paper Girls, right?
He is doing Paper
Mhm.
Girls,
Like
which
Paper Girls would also be, and like I said, granted, I did fall off, but the parts I read could easily be done into a show. I don't
so
know
Paper
how-
Girls is it's very well, like you said, could be easily and it's a slow burn, but it's really good.
Right. Looking forward to any of his creations coming out.
Yeah, I think that it would be an easier pull to do a thing like Paper Girls or I know you said it's optioned by somebody else, but Why the Last Man? Because
Absolutely.
they're very much set in our world.
Yeah.
It would be a larger, like you said, you would have to have the Game of Thrones budget to do justice to Saga.
It is legendary, so they have plenty of money.
And there is no way in hell you could take any of his properties and do them justice in a movie setting. Like, even if it was multiple movie settings, I don't feel.
I think you could do it with the one you were just talking about, We Stand on Guard.
We Stand on Guard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that was just
It's only
five issue,
Yeah.
5 issue series. You could do that one, but that would be one of the only ones that would work as a single film.
And I can say, just my own personal standpoint, nothing against this guy. I've read plenty of his work, but I'm more excited about the thought of a Vaughn universe over the Millar universe.
Oh, for sure.
For sure.
Yeah, hands
This
down.
is exciting news.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We've had a decade of Millar movies and Millar shows and everything, so we haven't had that with Brian K. Vaughan.
We have not.
So moving from the small screen to the big screen, because we're Segway Kings,
Yeah.
the new trailer for the Avengers dropped this week.
Oh my god.
They are going with the pre-speculated name of Avengers Endgame, from what it looks like. Got to see a lot of the characters that were left undusted, so to speak, after the last one, and
a few confirmations of those that were dusted.
Yeah.
Or
that weren't shown in the last movie.
do you guys want to get into this trailer?
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Spoiler.
Spoiler.
If you're avoiding trailers.
If you're avoiding trailers, skip 30 seconds ahead,
Right.
Stephanie.
No, more than 30.
More than 30.
I love you.
There's a lot in here. I mean, from the very get go, it picks up right where it left off.
I mean, I don't remember Tony getting into space, but obviously he's a tech genius, so
and
he
he's on
salvaged
the planet
something.
I mean, yeah,
Technology.
obviously he was off planet, which I'm pretty sure he was the only one left on that planet that didn't get dusted when they fought Thanos on his destroyed home world. So he obviously found some spacecraft.
Yeah.
And
Well, there was parts all over the place. So
Well,
So
and
that's
it
not
looks,
too surprising.
it looks like they were on the Benatar, which is the Guardian. It looks like he's on the Guardian ship. So I couldn't remember if the Guardian ship crash landed. I think that was what crash landed.
Oh, okay.
I need to go back and watch it.
I don't think they crash landed.
They
Because they were
landed.
all already on the.
But we also
planet.
don't know how long he just been out there.
Yeah.
Like
Long
that-
enough for his
the
food,
run out
water,
of
and
stuff.
oxygen.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, him not knowing how to probably pilot properly, maybe, or be damaged in the fight with Thanos.
It's not a hard stretch to get him back into space in a spaceship
Absolutely.
on a tech planet.
Yeah.
But then you move back to Earth and you see Bruce Banner, you see Cap. You just start going through all these characters and
And you see, while we were mentioning people who we hadn't seen get the snap, we see screens of people who have gone up there, including one of which somebody pointed out, Shuri, was shown on screen as one of the ones gone. So a lot of characters we didn't see turn to ash are still ashed.
So you know what's funny?
Well, because Hank Pym was on that too, so maybe they were just the missing people or something.
Hank Pym
No,
They
was
got-
No,
asked.
not Hank Pym. I'm sorry, Scott Lang.
Scott Lang.
Because he was on one.
That
of
was
those
assumed, I guess, because he has disappeared.
So you know what's funny about the Scott Lang thing? When they're showing his picture up there, that's the first picture that comes up when you Google Paul Rudd.
Really? Yeah, that's amazing.
So somebody on the internet noticed that, and it was all over Twitter yesterday. They were like, seriously, this is where you cut budgets at? You get the Google picture.
But I mean, it literally showed Scott at
But then, revealed later on.
Avengers.
The end of the trailer.
knocking on the door.
Yeah. So,
I love the memes that have been going around of who you thought would save the Marvel Universe.
And it's
who you
Ant-Man.
get.
Ant-Man and Ronan.
Yeah.
yeah, that's pretty
That's,
awesome.
that's
too.
the other big one is now
Yeah.
you get Hawkeye as Ronan.
With
Which
the impact of just showing him, that, I can't think of the actor's name right now. That over the
Jeremy
shoulder
Renner?
look.
Thank you.
Yeah, all that emotion you could tell. Which maybe remember I saw a fan comment on what the teaser trailer should be. Is just Hawkeye sitting there holding ashes in his home.
I was going to say,
Give
so
him that
the
look. That
Oh
all
my
would needed
God.
for a teaser.
Yeah, that's
Did you see the comic that was like, oh no, did you lose your family? He's like, no. And then it shows his bow
the
disintegrate.
bow
He's like,
just-
shit, now I got to use a sword or something.
I mean, even to the point that they dissolved the Avengers title in it.
Oh yeah.
I'm stoked about this movie, guys. It's been a 10-year journey to this point. I love these characters. It's going to be an emotional film. I I don't know how the last time we saw Scott Lang, he was lost in the microverse.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're going to bridge these things, but it's going to be amazing. They have not failed us yet, and I don't see the Russo brothers failing us at this point in time. I'm stoked. I still have my theories about
What's actually happening?
Yeah, who is trapped and who is really still alive. I'm curious to see if those play out. I've talked about them before because the people that you think are still alive, they're the ones who's in the real world, their contracts are running out. And those Phase 2 characters are the ones who are going to be going forward. So, I don't know. I'm interested to see what they do. I'm so stoked for this film.
Yeah. And Cap saying this has to work because I don't know what I'm going to do if it doesn't. I mean, when's Cap ever that person?
For sure. And the small little nod to the comic opening with Thanos' armor as a scarecrow. It's like straight from the comic. It's great.
In Nebula, you can tell she's suiting up to go after him. I mean, it's, there's a lot of little things in this trailer.
See, so question. Nebula was one of the ones that was left over on the planet with Tony, right?
No, she wasn't part of that fight. No, she where was she? Yeah, she was with a different group. Yeah,
Was she?
Yeah, I think she was with because she got rescued by Gamora, right? Cause she was from Thanos' place. I think she was with some of the other Guardians.
Yeah,
but she wasn't on that fight with.
Well, they were split up because there were some with Thor, and then there were some with Tony.
Yeah, but
and
she did not go back
in on that fight when they were fighting Thanos.
No, I think actually know what. Like so we're all just here. Like I think I remember. I think after she got rescued, she just got dipped out. Okay. I don't think she was hanging with anybody. Actually,
I don't think she was a big part of that movie at all.
Yeah, it's
just a
that,
little Gamora. And that's it.
I don't know. I need to go back and watch it, but like I said, there's this world is so big. The story is so big.
I will definitely be rewatching it.
Yeah,
and I know like Craig and Caleb are very staunch. I watched one trailer that I don't watch more. You're stronger than me. I know I'm gonna watch every fucking trailer they release of this movie. I can't help myself.
Same.
This is the only one I've seen.
Well, I know you will avoid the others because it's just y'all don't want the movie to be spoiled. I get that, but that's stronger willpower than I.
I think the one you'll want to avoid the most is probably the one that they release after the Captain Marvel movie is released.
Yeah,
that's probably going to show it at odds.
Probably.
Which is something to else point out. You didn't see her in this trailer at all.
No.
And I totally feel like they're saving it for her movie to come out.
I'm hoping. Yeah, I feel like she's probably got a different look in this one. Maybe at least hairstyle.
I think that they do
into the shorter haircut.
Well, you don't want to introduce a character that's going to be the hero of this movie until she's had her movie to establish herself. So you're right; it'll be after the Captain Marvel movie.
And I mean, that's just like them choosing not to introduce Wasp in Civil War.
Right.
Before she had her debut in Ant-Man Wasp.
Yeah, same reason.
Well, we did discuss it, so I'm going to jump ahead real quick to a segue king here. Captain Marvel's trailer actually did drop out there, and it's looking amazing. Like right off the bat.
I don't know. I didn't watch it.
Neither did I.
Jerry?
Are we going to spoil it? Do you want to spoil it for them?
Oh, so we've talked plenty already. We're going to wrap up the news here soon. Yeah. It's looking awesome. They're showing a lot of stuff. Like it looks like it's going to give you everything you're wanting from the Captain Marvel.
I like the little effect that they have with her cowl going on, and it doing the hair thing.
Yeah, absolutely. This little design. I'm not going to get into her too much, so y'all can watch it. And we're already going along on the news, but it's out there. It's amazing. Go look it up, Caleb. And
she has a cat.
She has a cat.
And then CW is actually expanding from just DC shows
bouncing back to the little screen again.
Yep, they're going to have Valiant in its team. They're Dr. Mirage, I guess they're bringing. I'm not a big Valiant reader, so
Valiant is a universe that I read a lot of their earlier stuff. I haven't been caught up with them lately, but I know like Robert Venditti has been writing some great stuff, or at least in the past 5 years has written some great stuff for them. They're bringing Bloodshot to the big screen with Vin Diesel, and I don't know why I haven't dipped into this universe. So I've heard great things.
The thing about them is that it used to be this universe that aged, and it was all like in the same time. They've started the same thing that the big two do, which is kind of these soft reboots and all of that. So I've never read much of them. I've read Dr. Solar and some things like that, just because they're kind of pulp classic characters.
Yeah.
Back in high school, a friend of mine had the first trade of XO Manowar.
Yeah.
Which honestly, like, Maybe that's just because that's the only one I've read. I always thought he was kind of their first flagship kind of character.
Kind of.
Yeah, I'm surprised we're not starting with that, but then again, it is kind of just like an Iron Man story. But more in the sense, I believe, if I remember right, because I have not read it since high school, was like he was a caveman or an early man who got an alien suit.
Yeah, he was an early man. I forget which.
It was like a Romans or something like that.
It wasn't Roman.
I think it's
it was,
older than that.
Yeah, it was. It predated
like a Hyborian kind of era.
a little bit, but
But like,
this
maybe they're worried about
sentient,
the Iron Man comparison is what I was.
this sentient alien spacesuit from somewhere out in the cosmos landed and took him over.
Yeah, like the newer series was like the aliens came and they were like abducting the humans and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and he like kind of led the charge to break free and ended up finding the suit and then freed the rest of his people, and then somehow got launched into the future and the present time.
I did read the Armor Hunters miniseries, and it was really good.
No?
So
I don't know. I was just thinking you
Craig's
all
got
know a
nothing.
whole lot more about this than I do.
At one point, I was really getting into him at Capt, and I was reading the trades.
right, yeah, it's good stuff. Like I said, I have no excuse for not reading them, other than there's other stuff that I'm reading.
That's my thing. Is I read so much that I just can't add another publisher of that magnitude to what I read.
They've got a lot of stuff.
So if you're listening to the show and you are a fan and you are fairly knowledgeable about the Valiant universe, again, man, come to our Facebook page and tell us what we're missing. Like, sell us, because you listen to what we talk about. We are not skimpy when it comes to what we buy and read. I just need to be sold on this series or this publisher, and so far I haven't been, but I would like to be, because in concept I'm intrigued.
Well, I will probably watch the television show, and here's one reason why. Because I don't know anything about the character.
Yeah,
I won't be upset if they change stuff.
Right.
Not that it's a big deal if they change minor things, but I hate when they completely change a character.
Absolutely.
What's a Caleb going for these days?
A Caleb?
Yeah, to sell him. Like,
And moving on.
you said sell me.
Oh,
Yeah, I was
He-
taking your. You see what I did? He's too
I saw
tired.
it.
Everyone's too tired.
Yes.
I saw it. No, I got it. Just
No.
wasn't funny.
I hate it.
Which, by the way, just side note, that was that was a direct quote from wrestler Scott Hall to my buddy when he tried to make a joke about getting out of it.
I feel like I heard it from a movie or something too.
No, but still, just it was every day. It reminds me when he was so nervous to go talk to Razor Ramon, and he tried to make a joke about the Wolfpack. Goes, no, I got it. It just wasn't funny.
Maybe I was just referencing that from you for all these years.
Maybe.
Probably.
So there were some game awards.
Yes.
Yeah, you know that thing you wanted to talk about?
Moving on.
Oh god. Yes. So this week they actually did the Game of the Year awards, and some people were really disappointed in it. Some people were kind of so. I haven't played a whole lot of games this year. I've played some of the key ones that came out, like Spider-Man.
Right.
I watched John play enough God of War to say that I've played God of War, and then I've been playing Red Dead Redemption lately.
John, your house neighbor.
Which the house neighbor.
Thank you.
So I'm going to give you a couple of the categories and who won. I'm not going to do all of them because there's like 30. So I'll do. Let's see. I'll start right here. Best performance. This is like a voice actor performance for best character. It was actually Arthur Morgan from Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah.
He was. I thought it was
Yeah.
real good. Craig's been playing the game as well.
It's the game of the year, even if it didn't win.
Right, and I mean that's what John said too, because he just finished it and he was like, it's phenomenal. Best audio design also went to Red Dead Redemption. Best score, music. Guess who got it? Red Dead Redemption. Best art direction was Return of Obra Dinn. I haven't heard anything on this game, honestly.
I haven't either.
So I'm not even really sure like what platform it's on or anything of that nature. So I kind of feel, because it's on a few of these categories, so I kind of want to look it up. Best narrative, Red Dead Redemption. Best game direction went to God of War. Best ongoing game, Fortnite. It's got probably the most players. I think it was Overwatch last year. So
Yeah.
And then the game of the year for this year, the nominees that they picked for it was Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Celeste, God of War, Spider-Man, Monster Hunter, and Red Dead Redemption. I thought Monster Hunter was weird unless they were just talking about the PC version, because Monster Hunter came out last year, didn't it? Or did it come out at the beginning of this year? Okay.
Actually, my memories of the beta hype just came off.
Yeah.
We've only been doing the show for a year, and it's been a mess.
Yeah. Okay. So it was God of War won Game of the Year.
So let me get this straight. Red Dead Redemption
won all these other
every category.
Yeah.
But then they gave the award to God of War.
And that's my problem with a lot of these award shows. This is my issue here. I'm glad you point out how many damn times Red Dead Redemption won. Yeah, God of War got it.
Yeah.
Now look, okay, let's all admit as grown ass adults, most of these big company award shows, from the Oscars, the Golden Globes, to even this, there's advertisement involved.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's sponsored by that, and that's how they get their bucks. And, it's all just kind of like, hey, make sure you go check out this game because it won these awards. We get that. But hide it better. They were like, okay, everyone knows Red Dead's great. We're going to acknowledge all his credentials. But God of War, while it had big hype in the beginning, it kind of faded quicker than what Red Dead has. So let's give it Game of the Year. It's kind of bullshit.
I played both games.
Yeah.
Red Dead Redemption's a much better game.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like I said, and in the end, like I said, they have something on their shelf. They can slap it on the front of their game and all that good stuff. I know it doesn't mean much, but it's the part of award shows that kind of irritate me, especially on the bigger ones, unlike the Golden Geek Awards, which is all voted by you, the good people out there who can make a real difference. This is local voting versus legislative voting.
No, I understand.
My big issue is I literally just watched a YouTube video of one of my YouTubers that ran down the list of winners and stuff, and some of them kind of questionable, kind of good, but like I said, Red Dead. Clean sweep on a lot of shit, but couldn't get Game of the Year?
Yeah.
Why? How does that make sense in any kind of logic?
Oh, right. And that's that was kind of my thing whenever I was referring to John. Yeah. Because that dude plays more games than anyone I know.
He does.
And he plays them on multiple consoles, and he'll get his money worth out of them before he moves on to the next game.
Right.
And so that's whenever I was originally, before they announced the winners and stuff, I was like, hey, who do you think for these categories and stuff? And he was like, oh, Red Dead, like, by far. And he had just beat the game, like, the previous weekend and everything. So, yeah.
Sorry, one more hate.
Okay.
A category you didn't mention, but the YouTuber did mention. RPG of the year went to Monster Hunter World. Which we fucking love Monster Hunter World.
Oh, yeah.
It's not a fucking RPG.
It's not an RPG.
The year that Octopath Traveler dropped, that Dragon Quest XI dropped, that I'm sure numerous PC RPGs that I don't play have dropped. Give it to Monster Hunter, which deserves to win something. Monster Hunter World is amazing, but it's not an RPG. It's an action game with some RPG elements. Yeah. Not the same as Call of Duty. It has RPG elements.
Yeah.
So... Your war show's bullshit, but thank you, Jerry, for your dues.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, again, as somebody that played both of those two games, and I don't play nearly as much as John does. I play a lot of baseball.
What was your favorite sports game of the year?
Baseball.
Caleb perked up here at sports ball. Now Caleb's awake.
Caleb, what was your favorite game of the year?
Watching my husband play and beat not one, not two, but all three of the revamped Spyro games in a matter of 2 weeks.
100% completion?
120%.
Nice.
Hell
yeah.
Yeah.
Is he like a Bandicoot fan at all? Because I know they're about to do those now that with the success of Spyro.
I don't know his
name. I imagine
you won't know until it gets ready to come out.
I imagine all of the 90s games are going to get the revamping.
Dude, if they do Banjo.
Not going to happen.
I know.
Anyways.
I want a new Diablo game. That's all I want in life.
Fuck yes.
Yeah, you're getting a mobile one, so have fun with that.
Yeah. You can play it overnight.
No. I have
wherever you are.
About that. All right. Well, so again, we can't cover everything in the nerd news because we don't have time, and I've spent the last minute and a half, like 5 minutes, wondering what the fuck you are talking about. I don't play video games.
He was practically asleep.
I'm kind of live that way, but. If there's stuff you want to talk about, drop it on our Facebook page, or maybe come see if we've dropped it on there. Anyway, we do what we do. We enjoy it. So come hang out with us on the social medias. I know I've said that like 7 times. I'm really tired, and I have zero idea what I'm doing right now.
It's the best.
Do you know where you are?
These are the best shows.
I don't know where I am, but I know what time it is, and it's Manga Ramen time. So why don't you serve us up a bowl?
I'm
going to go back to sleep now.
And ramen.
Well... Typically, with Manga Ramen, since me and Jerry have been doing this segment, we've always done shows that either have already come and gone, in a sense, or even though recently they have wrapped up. We want to talk this week about a show that is still ongoing. It only has a couple episodes left, but it's already making big waves when it came out. This week, we want to talk about Goblin Slayer.
Before we start on this, I am going to give a warning that there is sensitive materials in this. This is a very dark series, and the content of it is fairly dark.
And to my knowledge, this is actually the first show that Crunchyroll actually puts that warning up before the show because of what we're going to discuss.
So there is a trigger warning of like sexual content and stuff in this that we are going to get into.
We are going to get into it because, like I said, the controversy of the first episode is real. But first, a little history. That Goblin Slayer started off as a light novel written by Kumo Kasuya and with illustrations by Nobaro Kinosuke. And eventually got a manga adaptation, which I'm currently buying because after getting caught up in the show, I had to go out and start buying the original material. Was by Kasuke Kurosai. Goblin Slayer is the darkest game of Dungeons and Dragons you could have ever played. It's taken a lot of fantasy tropes, in a sense, and turned them on their head in a bit more of a realistic fashion. Now, it's called Goblin Slayer for a reason, because the main character calls himself Goblin Slayer. And everyone's like, especially if you play like RPG games, or you play D&D or Pathfinder, one of the first monsters you throw at a party to get them to get a feel for how they're going to play is goblins, because they're...
Is wraiths.
Or wraiths if you're Craig.
Fuck you,
because he's a fuck. But they're typically considered like the small, the weak, the easy to dispatch. Well, think about in a realistic term, if you go into a dark, dank cave and a horde of creatures the size of small children are coming at you 30 at a time.
Right.
And the show is showing the real dangers of any monster that's in a fantasy world. And while it came as no surprise to me, because I read a lot of like fantasy novels and literature that's kind of like shows the darker side of this. And what got a lot of people who, be honest, coming into anime since 1993, I grew up in the 80s and 90s anime, which is super violent, hypersexual, there's a lot of that kind of stuff. So to me, this honestly wasn't anything new, but I can see why it got a lot of people. And the first episode opens up with our priestess, which going over the wiki, I just realized I don't remember any of their names. They're only called by their classes. Mm-hmm. I don't know why that never clicked on me. Mm-hmm. But she's new to the guild. She wants to go be an adventurer, and she gets picked up by a small group with a fighter, a monk, and a wizard to go like, okay, we're gonna go clear out some goblins, get our ranks up high. It'll be simple. Even the fighters, even kind of like I've scared off a few goblins before. It won't be a big deal. They go into there, and long story short, they're outmatched by the goblins, and the goblins systematically take them down. And I mean, like the wizard, they attack the wizard and the priestess from behind. They knock the wizard down and immediately start stabbing her in her stomach. Then the other group gets back in here. The fighter realizes his sword's too big for fighting in a small, dank cave. And he systematically gets killed by the goblin.
Pummeled to death.
Beaten to death. Then they get to the monk. Hand-to-hand fighter. She's doing good until a hobgoblin shows up. Beats her down. And then the goblins do, and like we said, this may be sensitivity warnings here. We're going to discuss it as the show is. The goblins, she gets beaten down, stripped, and raped. And if you've ever, I'm reading R.A. Salvatore novels right now that have goblins as one of the big things. And they even discuss this thing is in the goblins' wheelhouse. And this show is not backing down from that. It's violent, it's showing, and it's like, yes, and they show like her getting dragged back to the goblin nest when finally Goblin Slayer shows up saving the priestess. They're going to go get her. And while not showing anything explicitly, they're showing enough to let you know and make you uncomfortable. I think that's what they want. Mm-hmm. This is not glorification of the rape. They're showing that these things are fucking monsters. And it's powerful. It's dark. It's, like I said, it's shocking, and that's what it should be. Jerry, like I said, I know you watched it before me, but I got around to it.
Yeah, so, John had talked about this series a while back, because I think him and I saw some kind of solicits or something for it. And then he went and found it online and read it. John, pirating manga is very bad. Listen to our episodes. Don't do it. But like, then him and I talked about it. He was like, dude, that series was way fucking darker than I thought it was going to be. Because I think whenever he saw that they were going to put it on Crunchyroll, he decided to check it out. So whenever the first episode came out, we all watched it, and it was super dark. And I was worried that it was going to be too dark For my taste, honestly, because I'm not into murder porn and all that stuff like Sean is.
Look, you grow up in a certain way.
No, I was just worried that like every episode is going to be the super dark, and they were just going to have like just this abyss of like people dying and getting slaughtered and raped and stuff like that, and I'm not into that. But people kept talking about the series, so I decided to get back into it. And it, from what I gathered from it, the first episode was basically just to demonize the goblins and show you exactly how awful they can be.
Yeah.
And then the show actually has like lighter tones to it and everything whenever you actually get into it. And it gets into main points of role playing and the roles of each character and everything. And they get into, really good like D&D stuff, like one of the main characters, she's a priestess, so she only has so many spells.
Yeah, which is really cool. Like not just a priestess, but even eventually they run into I guess dwarf's like a cleric.
Yeah. Well, I don't. Is he a cleric? I think he's more of like a mage or something.
Maybe mage, but like they even list like I only have so many spells per day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like even like as Jerry mentioned when he was getting me to push me to watch the show, like the opening even has dice being rolled. Like so you can tell this is like a dark Dungeons and Dragons story. And it's I'll be honest, like the last campaign I ran, I did some dark elements, but that was a direction I was worried about because it can be sensitive, and I get that. And the players I had, I just didn't know necessarily want to go there. But like if you are looking for like this dark and grittiness, which I'm not saying it's in no way glorified, but sometimes you want to kind of get into a gritty, dark world, and I know I do. And that's why this has quickly became. I watched, I think, up to 8 or 9 episodes that came out. I got caught up within 2 days, and I went out and bought the manga because this is my wheelhouse for like D&D. For whatever reason, judge me as you want. I like that dark and grittiness because it's not just another cookie cutter jumping into a fantasy world, even if you are reincarnated as a slime,
which we'll probably talk
about. Probably the next
episode.
But this one is, like I said, it'll give you everything. To me, it gives you a lot of everything you want in fantasy, but also has that sense of realism that previous anime, which I need to go back and watch, that Grimgar Fantasy, showed that even a goblin in realism, a goblin would still be very difficult to fucking kill. And this handles that, and it shows that Goblin Slayer to get into his past. A little bit of spoilers, but he's become the Goblin Slayer because that's what happened to his sister. And
like now his whole town, right?
His whole town, but specifically, like, I mean, they fucked up his entire village, but they also beaten, raped, and killed his sister. So he has dedicated his life to only killing goblins. It made him a badass fighter in general, but that's now become his dedicated purpose. And that's where some of the lightheartedness will even come in, though, because he is looking like he walked out of Dark Souls video game. Come up to the counter, and they're like, oh, there's ogres, there's problems, there's all these wizards, the demon lords coming back. He's like, you got anything with goblins? And that's all he's obsessed with.
And like all the other adventures and everything, because the way that they do their ranks is by like like platinum's the highest, and what's the
starts with porcelain, then goes to like steel, bronze.
And he is like a platinum. He's a silver level hero. So like all these people that don't know him see him and they're like, wow, that's some really shitty armor, and like, oh, he just does goblins all the time, and then they find out he's a silver and they're like, what the fuck? Which,
like, the little details of that, too, like, they make fun of his armor. He wears leather with, like, a little bit of metal. He has a really short sword and a really small shield. And it's, like, people judge him by, look at those tiny weapons, that cheap armor. Everything about him is dedicated to fighting in small tunnels and crevices that goblins live. It's like, that little detail. I fucking love that.
Yeah. I mean, I was just looking through the book. You had, I guess, the first volume here, and I was flipping through it, and it got some amazing art in it.
Yeah, I was letting Caleb and Craig flip through it since me and Jared going on our talk.
Yeah, and the animation for the anime is just as good.
The stuff where he's in his armor and stuff is just he looks great. So,
are there any other fantasy-esque creatures, or is it just goblins?
Oh yeah. Like he teams up like a dwarf, elf, a lizard man, and become part of his party. They're demons, they're ogres, there's hobgoblins. They've shown others.
At one point, a giant albino alligator shows up.
Giant albino alligator. Though he is getting drawn in, as far as I've gotten into the series, he has gotten drawn into fighting other creatures. But he still uses all of his tactics can still be applied to others, but it's just kind of that one track mind hero about himself, which kind of makes him a little lovable. And that he's just like, got goblins. So that's all he wants to fight is goblins. And he will help others, though he's a good person. But he's like, okay, we'll go. but you promise there'll be goblins.
and he kind of like also does this thing where he'll see something mundane in the regular world, and like his mind will automatically go to, how could this help me kill a goblin? How could I use this?
Oh, yeah. And like in those little terms of realism, like is that he has a sword and shield. That's like his wheelhouse of weaponry. But he's quick to be like almost like I said, that realism. He stuck his sword into a goblin's chest. It's hard to pull out, so he takes a goblin's hammer that it dropped when it died to kill the next goblin. He used their own weapons.
At one point, even their own bodies.
Yeah. At one time, we were like, "You're gonna leave your sword?" He goes, "It's too covered in blood and fat. I can't. It's useless right now." So he grabs other weapons and stuff. Like he's just an efficient killing machine. But like I said, all in the name of avenging his sister. It's a dark story. It will make you uncomfortable, and it's supposed to. Like, it's kind of like, I think a lot of people got shocked by this, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, because it should open. Anime isn't always just the big-eyed cuteness and the fun adventures in another world, or it's I don't know if it's going to hit the level of Attack on Titan, but like Attack on Titan was a lot of anime fans' first really mature anime.
Right.
I think this, while it's not that far separated, I think this is hitting another generation of like, oh shit, anime can be more than just cute high school movies.
Cartoons for kids.
Right. So Attack on Titans was almost too dark for me. I never finished it.
It's pretty bleak.
It's depressing. I would say like Attack on Titan is more depressing than like dark level of Goblin Slayer.
Okay.
Goblin Slayer is just very mature and very
gotcha.
like that. Attack on Titan is just like, I showed my wife the first episode, and she's like, "This is too depressing. I don't care. It looks beautiful. It looks like it's interesting, but I'm depressed watching it." So it's a different kind of thing.
Kind of and another thing that I just remembered that I wanted to mention that kind of like makes you think like, this is a D&D game. I think either a couple of the openings or endings was someone narrating the gods creating the world and rolling the dice and putting the heroes in it and stuff like that. Yeah. So, and
you see them rolling like the typical like D20, D12s, and all that.
Yeah, and it's not just like a D6 or anything. It's like all the different dice.
And like I said, real quick to finish off, like I said, I know I've really emphasized that dark and gritty, and that's honestly what drew me into it. But lighthearted shit that literally made me just like laugh while watching this was when he formed a party with the lizard man, the elf, and the dwarf. They're kind of like he's very off-putting because he's very, like I said, single-minded about what he wants. So he'll talk, but it's very short. But then they're like, man, he did something nice for him, and he introduced them to cheese because he lives on a goat farm.
Oh.
So like cheese isn't a common thing where they come from. The lizard man is literally just like, this is the nectar of the gods. Like, cheese is the greatest thing I've ever eaten in my life.
He's not wrong.
He's not. But like I said, there are moments that will make you smile on this. But like I said, but it also shows the dark side of a fantasy adventure, and I can't recommend it more.
So is it still ongoing?
Oh yeah.
The anime is going for 12 episodes. They have released 9.
Okay.
The manga is now being published. They're up to volume 4.
Okay.
Yep. So, as well as I believe the light novels are available here, and there's even a side story.
It's a year one.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Very cool. Well, may not be for everyone, but it's definitely for someone.
I'm interested.
Yeah. If you're okay with it going a little bit dark and you like fantasy settings, I think you will not regret reading this.
I mean, I'm okay with dark stuff. You guys know me. Just from a writing standpoint, though, and this is just my personal opinion. It's not
can't be over the top.
It's not a blast on anybody. No, I think it's a lazy trope to use the rape of a woman as motivation for a male character. It's been done a billion times. It's just not like, and it's not against the book. I'm sure the book's great.
No,
when I hear that, I'm just like, yeah, no, I'll go read something else.
Oh,
it's just not like, that's just not something I care to read. There's other ways to motivate your male characters from a writing standpoint. Well, even if it is nuanced and it works for that story, it's just a thing.
One of your favorite series, The Crow.
Yes, one of my favorite graphic novels is yes.
And that's the only one you need that has that motivation.
I mean, that's pretty much
what
it.
Jerry's getting.
No, I know exactly what he's getting at. But
no, I get you.
It's the same and also different at the same time.
For sure.
Yeah.
But that's going to be it for today. Our bowls are empty. Ikidakimasu.
Fucking rock on. All right, cool.
So we have a theme for this.
Kind of
unintentional theme.
Right? Absolutely. This is very much an RPG episode. It seems like because as we move on and get smothered, covered in comic, we're going from I guess the world of Japanese manga themed role playing games to a little bit of a westernized not manga role playing thing. I don't like words are hard.
Western comic.
We're gonna fucking talk about Die. How about that? I'm just gonna say it.
We're gonna talk about Die.
This is
not dice. Die.
Yeah, not die from Image Comics, but Die from Image Comics. Put out by the amazing team of Kieran Gillen, and I forget who the artist was on this book. It's not McKelvey.
No, it's not.
No, it's
McKelvey.
not.
Let me
This
go
is the
grab
same
it.
team
I got it right here.
that was on the Journey in the Mystery book that came out not long
Hans
ago.
Cowles.
Yeah, see, I thought it was McKelvey also, but when I read it,
here
I
we go.
noticed that it wasn't. The same.
Stephanie Hans and Clayton Cowles.
Yeah, Stephanie Hans and Clayton Cowles.
Rhiannon Hughes. Can I just say how slow I feel thinking about this? Because die doesn't necessarily mean die. It means the dice die, like a die.
You can
It means
say that you're
both in
slow.
the context
Thanks.
of this.
Right.
Connect-
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I think in the
just now.
context of this book, it
Also,
literally
today
means both.
Yeah,
Definitely.
absolutely.
Yeah, so you want to let's get into this book. Let's talk about it a little bit. So the series starts off. It is one of the. It's one of Sean's favorite tropes. It's team building.
Yes, team
Yay!
building. At
It's
least this one's done properly.
it's done properly and quickly.
Yeah.
So it is one of our main protagonists, and I'm horrible with names, guys. And I've literally been up for almost 36 hours now, so I'm not going to know names.
Do you mean to list the characters?
I slept really
Yeah,
well.
why
I
don't
remember any
one of you
character
guys
names.
take over?
Okay, so since I got it right here in front of me, the main characters that we're introduced to at the beginning of the book is Dominic and his sister Angela.
Mhm.
They're going to their own birthday party that someone else has planned.
It's Dominique's birthday, yeah.
Yeah. So then they are joined by Chuck, Matthew, Isabel, and Sol. And Sol's the one who has basically planned this game out for Dominic.
Yeah.
And you can.
Okay, yeah. So it's Dom's having a birthday party, and their friend Soul has. They are all gamers for the most part. Some of them are more reluctant. They're different groups, but they all get together and they play these games. And for Dom's birthday, Soul or whatever you say his name has planned this book or planned this game.
You're right.
He's invented kind of a thing. They're going outside of regular D&D, and they are creating their own world.
And just for story context, this takes place in 1991.
Yeah,
When it opens up.
way back in the early 90s.
Sorry.
The golden days of Vampire the Masquerade. But yeah, they're going to get together for his birthday. They're going to play this made-up game that Saul has invented. But there's a little bit of a twist to this. Each character gets a die. A die,
Mhm.
Jerry.
And,
Hi.
and it's the full set
Yeah.
of dice, excluding, I guess, the
Percentiles.
percentile. So what they do is they tell him their character, and then he gives them one. So you get Dominique chooses a kind of diplomat with teeth. She's like a cross between Cleopatra and Machiavelli. So he gets the D4, and Sol basically gives them all a roll, calls him a dictator. Matthew picks the magical warrior turning emotions into power. So he becomes the grief knight and gets the D8. Was it Abigail the sister?
Angela.
Angela the sister. She said since they entered that she wants to be a cyberpunk,
Yeah.
whatever that is. So
Nobody knows what cyberpunk
he
actually
dubs her
is.
Neo,
It's
gives
at the
her
time of Shadowrun.
gives
so.
her the D10. Then it gets to Isabel. She wants to be some kind of atheist with gods for pets. So he dubs her a Godbinder and gives her the D12. And then Chuck, I don't know, the one, he kind of seems like the one that would bully nerds and stuff. He
It's
says
gotta be like the alpha nerd.
he said he kind of
Yeah.
just picks some random abilities, and he just wants to have fun with it. So he dubs him the Fool and gives him the D6. And then Matthew, what did he pick? I didn't even. Oh no, I already got to him. So they all got their different die. That means Soul gets the D20 at
Right.
the end of it
As the game master.
as the game master, and they get ready to play, and then the D20 starts glowing, and then it skips to 2 hours later. The mom goes up to the room, and they're all gone.
Yeah.
And then it flashes forward to 2 years later, and all of them but Soul show up, and I think even Abigail's missing her arm,
Yeah.
and they're in rough
Angela.
shape. So like all you could pretty much ascertain from that is
And they look ragged.
Yeah.
They look like they've been through. Arm missing aside, they still all look like
None of them can
Yeah.
talk about it.
yeah.
That's like, and you think that it's kind of a PTSD thing, but it's not. Like there's something physically prohibiting them from talking about it. One of the characters, as they go on through their life, one of the main characters gets rich basically putting out books, but he's had to find a way to tell his stories to work around not being able to talk about it. It's really fascinating.
Right.
So when they asked Kieran Gillen what this book was about, he said something along the lines of Forgotten Realms meets Jumanji, which is the best way to put that.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
And that's absolutely what this is. I loved this. This is a setup book.
Right. The art is fucking gorgeous.
See, the art is what I didn't.
Really?
Yeah. No.
I really like it.
Yeah, I thought so too.
I don't like. I think it's just like a personal aesthetic thing. I think it is gorgeous art. I think it works really well. I think it's probably the premiere of that style. I just don't like that painted style. There's something about it that it's not for me per
Honestly,
se. I don't
usually
think it's
with
bad.
you on that too. To be honest, like the painted style outside of Alex Ross, I'm usually not crazy about it. But for some reason, I kept turning every page and being blown away.
Well, and I also read this digitally, so maybe that had a lot to do with it.
Me too.
I wasn't feeling it, and I love the artist Stephanie Hans. I've seen other stuff that she's worked on, and she's phenomenal. She's a great artist.
Yeah.
It just didn't do it for me. Now you get to the page that Jerry's looking at right now that no one can see because podcasting. But like that's beautiful. That is absolutely gorgeous.
Page, yeah.
It just I don't know. It kind of took me out of these moments, and maybe it deserves a reread. Maybe I need to go back and get sunk into it.
After you slept.
I read it yesterday.
No, I get it.
But
yeah.
it just
I can get I understand where you're coming from, especially like when you're used to traditional colors, especially in comics. And as I said, this is rare for me to like this painted style. Typically, it kind of turns me away because I'm used to just either the bolder traditional comic book coloring. So I get that, but for some reason, it worked for me. Like it drew me to instantly seeing this the first illustrations of the characters. For some reason, I was really feeling it.
Well, and I think for most people, being immersed in the comics community and the art community, everybody's talking about this book right now. And I'm in the minority when I say again. It's not that I didn't like this art. It's just I don't know that for me this art worked for this story.
Right.
And I'm very much in the minority, and I recognize that. And there's probably reasons for that. But
Actually, this kind of hit me was like with I guess the illustration look, the painted illustration look. Especially if we're going to get it deep into the story of what it is them being transported into a fantasy realm.
Right.
And when we see them in their characters again, it's reminding me of the old Dragonlance era covers.
Yeah.
Like Craig especially, I don't know if you've ever read the old novel, you know what I'm talking about.
Well, and the Magic the Gathering cards.
But it's reminding me of that era of the book covers or Magic the Gathering, very good example. I think that's probably why it's clicking with me more because that was when I was discovering this kind of stuff. And but going into that, discussing that they are warped back into the world, kind of like what we said with Goblin Slayer. I'm getting the vibe early on, or maybe just because I'm all up in Goblin Slayer right now, that I'm anticipating a dark, gritty fantasy realm.
Right.
This is going to be the D&D cartoon with no fucking roller coaster, and death is apparent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
This is basically Jumanji if they had more players. Robin Williams stayed in Jumanji and then summoned them all back.
Yeah.
I think it's got a lot of potential.
No, I'm going to keep reading it because it's definitely got me hooked. It's one of the better versions of what is becoming an oversaturated genre in the comics medium, which is the D20-esque books. Because so not only did we just talk about one that's manga, but right now you've got one that I'm not going to spoil what your book is, but you're going to talk about another book that's this style book. You've also got books like The Realm, which is amazing, but it's essentially this same style thing. You've got actual Dungeons and Dragons and Forgotten Realms and comics like that. You've got the
Rat Queens. There's a whole lot of.
Yeah. It's been there, but I understand what you're saying. Though it's becoming a little more prevalent.
Right now, the market is saturated with D20-esque D&D style games.
Do you want to call all of them D20-esque games, or can some of them just be considered fantasy though?
I think a lot. Well, so The Realm could definitely be just considered fantasy, but a lot of them. What is the Rolled and Told?
Rolled and Told is absolutely offshoot. It's games. Right. It's not even really a story. It's not a comic book. It's just it is actually D&D. Yeah, it's actually D&D games. Like they give you all the stuff that you need in the story. Stephanie's getting them right.
What was the one for kids?
You're talking about Skills and Scoundrels.
Skills and Scoundrels. Yeah. I mean, a lot of these are, there's so many of them, and I think that they are very, and purposefully so, heavy on the Dungeons and Dragons tropes because it's very popular right now. And
but the thing is that most fantasy is heavy on those things.
Yeah.
So
true.
It's very hard to separate
it's
that
kind
out.
of, it's kind of different because I know where you're trying to go, but the way Sean and I know it is isekai.
Isekai.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and that's like it's more prevalent in Japanese culture because it is absolutely we're in the regular world and now we're in this game world with all of our knowledge.
I was actually going to bring that up. I'm
Yeah.
glad you did already.
Yeah.
Was like I think this like the abundance of these coming into Western comics is directly related to the burst in popularity since like 5 years ago with Sword Art Online in the anime and manga community of the isekai, which is like another world transported to another world genre. So I think it's huge right now in anime and manga. And I think that's kind of why we're seeing more of it now in the Western. I think it's a direct correlation with each other.
Yeah.
Well,
but it doesn't take away from, like you said, you're kind of getting tired of it. Even I'm admittedly, I said that in my review of the Final Fantasy manga I did a while back, which is also an isekai one. I'm kind of tired of that too.
Yeah.
But specifically of people going to another fantasy world. But when it's unique and different enough, I'm enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
Like this one has a real darker edge to it, which I'm kind of digging. The time I got reincarnated as slime has some unique qualities to it, so that's why I'm appreciating those a bit more.
And like ReZero that we've talked about before.
So I mean, you've DM'd, I've DM'd. One of the hardest things to do is how do you get the party together? I'm just
I know.
How do you get the party together is one of the hardest things, and essentially what this does is puts the party together for you automatically. Right. So it's can be considered a lazy trope because it's an easy way to get the party together in a fantasy world or in a fantasy setting.
Well, but I think this is so meta. Like I wouldn't even call it a lazy trope because it is done purposefully, and it's
in
done
this
in
book.
a
It's
way
done very well.
Right.
But I mean, y'all, like, and I throwing back to other books, like you've got books like Champions right now that Jim Zub is doing that also plays into it.
I do agree. Like that one is from what I've seen, I haven't read it, but I was seeing like kind of the advertisement for it. That is straight up just like, okay, we want to kind of like they're acknowledging
we want a D&D arc in Champions.
It's entirely intentional.
Yeah,
like wow, they're taking something that's not normally in there and isekai into a fantasy world.
And it's good. I'm not even saying it's not. I'm just saying that the market is saturated with this style of book right now, and there's a lot of it to read.
Yeah.
And this is a great example of one, and the book is almost sad, and that's what I love about this book. It's not.
It's very dark.
It really shows the differences of like how this like adventure. I say that with quotations. Affect all the characters.
Right.
Some of them are just cannot get over like what has happened. Some of them have had struggling marriages and families. Some have profited off of it, like the kid that you were talking about that made movies and everything off of their adventures and everything. So it's really, and it's almost, in a way, this is almost also playing off of the kid adventure tropes, like the Goonies and It and everything, because this is almost an It type telling.
The suburban fantastic.
It is very much an It type
because
telling.
like you had the kid that made books off of like the shit that happened to him. Then you have people that are like alcoholics now and stuff.
Yeah,
like
seeing how each one of them have dealt with it. Because obviously, and we haven't gotten the full history of what happened, but clearly they've been traumatized. And I think that's what this book's going to be. And like I said, if you're not tired of this genre like Caleb,
I'm not even.
I'm joking.
I'm not tired of it.
But it's absolutely a book I think everyone should at least pick up. The first issue it just came out this week, right? Yeah. So
it's really
worth picking
good.
up. Absolutely.
We kind of jumped off board of the story, but they come back a couple years later, or later when they're adults. Somebody hands him the D20, and it's got blood all over it. So then they try to destroy the D20, and it teleports him back into the fantasy realm. So, and the missing guy turns out to be the controller of the whole world now. So
they're worried about what was the big bad guy from Dungeons and Dragons show? Do you remember? From the cartoon?
I can't remember his name either.
So basically they had a villain like that.
They call it, like in this book, they call it the Grandmaster.
The Grandmaster,
and when they get there, they found out that their friend summoned him back and took that title over, and he's like,
he has stayed there for the past 20 years while they went back home battling
him.
Yeah.
And like I said, with full spoilers to the end, I'm going to go ahead and say, because like I said, you pointed out that the drawing is beautiful. What happens when they get there? They're back in their characters. They're in their armor and weapons. Like this was striking me as very like Dragonlance era and Magic the Gathering. Was you see a robed figure come up and he's talking about you reveal that it's Solomon and he's talking about what he's been doing this entire time. But then he collects the D20. You see him kind of shove it into his hood. You realize that he's missing his eyes and he has 2 D20s now for eyes that are glowing full of magical energy. And that's a badass monster.
Yeah, it looks really cool. It does. And Jerry, you mentioned something earlier too that I thought was really interesting. Is one of the male characters is actually playing a female character.
I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, and because I know Kieran Gillen, he is going to. This is going to be very interesting because I don't know if he is. I think he's a gay man, and so he's very immersed in LGBTQ culture, and he understands the nuances of gender and how to deal with that respectfully. And I noticed in the book, like there was this one moment where they tried to call him a different name, and it was awkward. But because they had spent years referring to him as his feminine identity, they almost they defaulted to that, and that was interesting. And I thought it was it's going to be a neat take to see how that would transfer.
He hinders gender fluid very well. He did it in Wicked and Divine really well too. So
another thing that we actually did not mention that we find out as soon as they hit that fantasy realm is you found out that it wasn't that they made a pact not to talk about it. That one of the characters actually did a spell so they would not physically be able to talk about any of it.
Yeah, Dom actually did it because he didn't want, for whatever reason. I mean, it's a trope so that we don't know what's going on. Otherwise,
I believe the curse was your mouth will taste of shit. If
Yeah.
you mention it.
Yeah.
I imagine after a couple tries, they gave up on trying to talk about this ever since.
Yeah, it was. I enjoyed it. I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep reading it
For sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Sean,
why don't you take us to a book that's not Dungeons and Dragons related? Oh wait,
Gotcha. We're going to talk about Rick and Morty versus Dungeons and Dragons. And while this one is clearly even by the title, they're not trying to hide what this is. This is Rick and Morty, and it's a love letter to D&D. I believe we've talked about the first issue.
Yeah, we did.
Some episodes back, and this has continued to be amazing, especially if you've ever played or even just casually seen D&D. You pick up on all just the little things throughout, and it's so many to mention. And in this episode, this issue,
right?
It's a cartoon show; it can be an episode. We're getting the whole family involved because Jerry Smith, not our Jerry Smith, but Jerry Smith from this show.
I'm so mediocre.
Brought them out of the last adventure, and now he's bragging about his time when he played D&D and getting them dragged in. And what we go from there is just them going on an adventure. Of course, Rick is especially pissed that Jerry's involved, so he's completely grumpy. But what's going on is that Jerry's explaining about his character that he could be, and they convince Rick to let them go back into a alternate reality that is as close to real Dungeons and Dragons as possible. They can get an actual adventure without Rick just basically John and making the best, strongest character that breaks every game he possibly can.
Right.
Craig.
I fully admitted before we started this podcast that I am Rick.
Oh, absolutely.
I am the power gamer.
But he does find the dimension as close as
gamer,
D&D.
Caleb. I gamer.
I said nothing.
But spelled with a Y.
Ooh. Still said nothing.
And he finds the portal and they go into their D&D world, and they're off the jump. They're greeted by Dungeon Master from the 1980s Dungeons and Dragons cartoon.
It was fantastic.
They run into the 1980s Dungeon Master from the old D&D cartoon, who then within 2 panels changes to Chris Perkins, the creator of 4th and 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, who also DMs for one of my favorite online comic strips, and they do their own show called Penny Arcade. And it's kind of they're explaining that he's there as their narrative overseer. That's what I like how he put it. And they proceed to go on to all right, I'm gonna put you on your adventure. You're in this world where this is what we do. Pick your classes. And Jerry Smith being Jerry Smith, he talked about him being a wizard in his college days of playing D&D. He's like, all right, he goes, wizard is good. What school of magic? Abjuration. which is like the school of wizardry no one fucking picks in D&D. And he even said, like Rick quoted, "Abjuration, could you pick a less useful school? Of course you can't. There isn't one." And I'm not clear on the finite details of this class, but it is basically a lot of like this kind of like buffing.
It's defense. Defense and buff is what it
buff
is.
And defense. Like it's not a.
There's no offensive spells.
It's not a glass cannon. He's a glass shield, which doesn't make any fucking sense.
Hilarious.
Which is why no one picks that school of wizardry.
Right.
And at which point, after turning him into his wizard, the dungeon master turns into a gothic elf chick, which I'm sure is a reference I'm not getting. Maybe from Dice Camera Action or one of those other podcasts.
Critical Role or something.
Maybe. I don't know. Like, it seems to be changing to different DMs. I don't know who they're representing, and they don't acknowledge it either. But they didn't mention Chris Perkins, whose name I'm finally remembering. And they go through and they pick their classes. They all try to, like, they had done that the last issue, and this one they all kind of picked different ones. And Morty turned into like the half orc rogue, which is like that's a class I never wanted
Because he's tired of dying.
He's tired of dying. They want to be a little hardier. And Rick's not wanting to pick anything, but he's of course he's been very adamant because like Morty kind of mentioned wanting to be a bard. He's like, no family member might over to play a fucking bard. Rick has issues with bards. It'll make you love this show even more, huh, Caleb?
It's not my fault. Rick is a shitty character.
He is.
And then Rick says, I don't care. I don't want to play this anyway. I don't care what you make me. So they make him G. Willikers Peddlebutt, the bard.
Oh, he was a gnome.
Yeah, and he's giving they're all giving their backstory. He's like, I don't care. No fucking way. They go on their adventure. And it's just like, you see them, like Jerry actually taking kind of center stage in this issue. Because, usually he's definitely the walking mat of this show because he is Jerry Smith.
Hey,
I'm going to look at you every time I say that, Jerry.
yeah, great.
But it is showing, like, it's showing what his class of wizard can do. And it's actually like, he's strangely making it work with the defense and stuff and the buffing the other players. And he's even giving them, like, coaching the rest of the family on how to do well.
Hey, you're thinking outside the box. A lot of times these useless characters are not useless. People don't know how to play them.
Right.
Yeah, and absolutely. And this is just like I said, without going into too much, because otherwise we'd be here all day reading you this page for page like Jerry used to. But you see him showing them all, teaching the family how to use their class abilities and stuff. Like he's helping them become better players, and that's pissing Rick off, which is great. You're used to Rick kind of being the dick in charge, and that's what he's used to too. And then there's just a great moment where they're battling ogres, and they run into an ogre mage, and he's ready to go into wizard spell against Jerry, and he's like, the ogre's like, call lightning. Jerry like, counter spell. He says, sleet storm, counter spell. Conjure, counter spell. And then he's yelling at him in ogre, and they translate it to, you motherfucker, I'm going to rip off your dick and kick it into the sun. And he also comments, who the fuck plays an abjurer? Seriously. And it's just, again, like what this books have been and what, so far we're just 3 issues in, and it's just a love letter to Dungeons & Dragons.
It is.
It is. And I love this book, so I don't like Rick and Morty. We all know that.
You do
but
not.
I can't stand the fucking show. But this book is a lot of fun. And like Jim Zub is doing an amazing job with it. One thing that happened in this book that you didn't get into too much is something that's been going on in this entire series. Jerry and his family are kind of on the splits, right? Like,
Well,
they are
that's
in
coming
the
from the show. He is separated from his
okay,
wife
I didn't know if that was
in the
happening in the
TV
actual
series.
show.
Yeah.
But when he takes over and he's playing this, I guess they're playing the 5th edition, which is the one that we all
They
know
are. There's
about.
actually a joke in the book about it.
Right.
He kind of gets some big dick power.
He does.
Going on
Because this
there,
is
like-
his wheelhouse. It's
Yeah.
something he's actually good
He
at.
took 2 extra points in charisma.
Exactly. Like, yeah,
Which Rick got mad about because charisma's a dump stat, as he put it.
his what's the wife's name?
Beth.
Beth. Yeah, Beth is.
She digging on him.
Yeah, she's seeing the husband that she always knew and wanted, and he's being the father figure that he always wanted.
And it's funny, too, because, like I said, you can tell, like, not only is Jim Zub writing it, but Patrick Rothfuss, who is deep into D&D, is also writing. So it's like you're getting the realism of, like, the world they know of D&D as well as playing D&D. Like, he mentioned, like, I put 2 points in the charisma as a half-elf. I didn't need it. That gave me all the benefits I needed. He goes, like, charisma's still a dump stat. You don't need to do it. And then he showed why he can do it. He showed how it works. Like, especially, like, if you're just a Rick and Morty fan and you know a little bit about D&D, you can enjoy this book. But if you played Pathfinder, Dungeons & Dragons, any kind of D20 pen and paper, especially, there's so much in these books to get. It's a 4-issue miniseries. Like I said, there are 3 in. You should get this. If not, pick up the trade paperback.
So one of the great jokes in it was, I had thought when I read the first one that each one was going to be its own edition.
Right.
And I think I even mentioned that when I reviewed the first book. And then there's a joke where Beth is like, wait, we did first, second, and third, and now we're going to fifth. And she's like, what about fourth edition? And Rick's like, no one talks about fourth edition.
Which pisses me off because I liked fourth edition.
You're the one person.
That was the one where everyone had magic, right?
I know that. Well, I know it was heavy into the miniatures. Like you really you had to use miniatures because like a lot of the powers and abilities that classes had invoked like moving spaces and a fighter in 4th edition could control the battlefield. He had the ability to move players where he wanted you, like commanding you in the like. It was a lot more tactical, which a lot of people didn't like. I think it's like if you ever play like tactics RPGs, like Final Fantasy Tactics or the Ogre Battle series. If that's not for you, that's why they probably did like 4th edition. So they gave you 5th edition where everyone can be anything they want. Everyone has their powers.
Which is also why 3.5 is still one of the favorites, and which was 3.5 was a direct response to 4 not selling. They went back and modified 3 and beefed it up.
And Pathfinder came out of that too.
And then when they moved on to 5th edition, Pathfinder's like, no, we're going to create the same game and let people keep playing it.
And now they're doing Pathfinder 2, whatever the hell that is.
It's 5th edition.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Or everyone can be super powerful, great, awesome winner. But that's my book of the week. I thoroughly have been enjoying this series, and this one especially stood out this week. Amongst many good books, which I'm sure we'll give a rundown after.
It's a good book, man. It's a really good book.
And I really like the concept of them using more role-playing stuff and D&D things in more media because it's getting more people into Dungeons & Dragons and Pathfinder and stuff like that. Like, I have so many friends that are getting into it because of anime that they're watching.
Right. Which is awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm going to move away from fantasy. I'm not moving away from fantasy. My book is Self-Made from Image Comics. Matt Groom wrote it. Eduardo Ferragamo did the art, and or maybe Ferragamo did the art, and Marcela Costa did the colors. This book is pretty much what you think a typical fantasy book is going to be. The art's beautiful. Absolutely stunning art in this book from a creative team that I've never heard of any of these people before. But the book starts off, kingdoms at war. You've got one person that's at odds with the commander on how they should fight this battle. And she thinks they should do guerrilla warfare, and he's doing traditional old fantasy, march your people right at the other people, and she thinks they're all going to die, and guess what?
They all died?
They all died, except for her. And so the next thing that happens is a prince shows up, and he's just this arrogant guy, and he's going to save the realm, and he's got a little sidekick with him, and he takes her on this adventure with him. You're fine. And they're going to head to this other kingdom, and they're going to borrow a dragon from this other kingdom. Again, super typical fantasy type stuff. And so they enter this other kingdom, and the prince demands that they give him the dragon. They slaughter the entire party. This other kingdom slaughters the entire party. You're a third of the way through the book, and you're like, wait, everybody's dead. Some little electric bolts flash across the page, and restart back to previous to going in, and she's telling him, no, you have to be more humble. Let me talk to him. So she goes in, she humbles herself to the other kingdom.
She rolls a 20 on diplomacy, basically.
And they give her a dragon. They give them the dragon to go fight. So they fly off. They show up at the big bad guy, and he's already, doing his thing to kill everybody. They stop him, and during the battle, he says something about that clicks in her mind, and she's like, wait, we went back in time. Why can't we go back all the way to the beginning and save all of the people? And the prince is like, no, that doesn't matter. All that matters is we beat the bad guy. And she's like, no, that's not how this works. So they get into a fight, and she kills him. Electric light, he shows back up, tries a different tactic, she kills him again. And you're like, what the fuck is going on? Because it's, well, come to find out, it's a fucking video game and she's an NPC that has gained sentience and is killing the player characters outside of her programming. So it goes back to the programmers arguing, and one of them's going, no, we should definitely get rid of this bug before we release it. And the other one's going, no, I think we should study this a little bit more. And that's how it ends. So, really interesting concept that this NPC gains sentience. And it's supposed to just be, because, that happens so often in video games where you have somebody, they join up with you, and you never think about their real thing. You're just going through the game, and you get to the end and you beat the big bad guy, and that's all that matters. Well, what about helping their kingdom? And yeah, it was a really interesting concept, and I'm really digging it and want to see where it goes because, again, it's that fantasy drawing somebody into a fantasy, but it's actually going the other way. It's kind of like Westworld.
It's metagaming. It's taking it's a book about metagaming.
So yeah, because the little electric flashes and going back in time were obviously the player character going back to his save spot and replaying that with a different tactic. Yeah. So it was crazy. It was a very interesting concept. Again, from a creative team I've never heard of before. So
I'm gonna check that one out. That sounds.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I had a good time with it.
Very cool.
Did they still have issues of it at Capt?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
So this was from Image Comics, though, right?
It's Image.
Yeah, okay.
So.
Yeah. Nice. All right. Yeah, I will definitely check that out. Mine is actually not going to be fantasy. And also, I'm going to take us back. I'm going to take us back to more manga because that's what this series needs. More manga.
We got a to-go order of manga wrong.
So the series I'm going to talk about was actually a Shonen Jump #1. They call it a Jump Start, and it's whenever they put a first chapter of a new series into their magazine for you to check out. The series that I'm talking about this week is called Chainsaw Man, and I talked to Sean quite a bit about new series being in Shonen Jump. I was like, I kind of wish that I had more to read on a weekly basis. And I really hope that this series ends up being weekly, though. With the details and the art and everything, I feel like it might just dumb down to one of those bi-weekly or bi-monthly titles. So it's called Chainsaw Man. It's by Tatsuki Fujimoto. And the first chapter is titled Dog and Chainsaw. We're introduced to this this kid named Denji. He looks like he's probably maybe in his teens or so. He's going over this, all these amounts. Like he says that he, sold an organ and he's calculating the price of that. He sold a testicle, calculating the price of that. Sold an eyeball. He cuts trees and he calculates the amount of money that he makes from that a month. And then whenever it gets down to it, he mentions hunting demons. And he's like, well, I guess, this probably makes the most money. So you find out that in this world that they live in, that there are demons. And a really good kind of prized job that you can have is hunting demons. You then find out that this kid is essentially living in poverty. His mother died whenever he was a young age from a heart disease. And then his dad committed suicide because he owed money to the mob. Well, at that point, the head mobster basically transferred his debt to the kid and was like, okay, you have to make me this money or I'm going to get it out of you however I can, even if I have to sell you. He kind of in passing just tells the kid, as sort of a joke, why don't you go kill a demon or something? And at that point in the backstory, he runs into this little thing that's like, it's almost like a pig. And it's got a chainsaw for a nose, and it's got a ripcord for a tail. And
as they do,
he's debating on killing it, and he's worried that it's going to kill him, and then it kind of collapses. It was hurt somehow. He essentially makes a deal with it and lets it drink his blood for it to survive. And together, as a child, he kills his first demon. then it flashes forward to his current day life, and how he's trying to he's killing demons for this mobster to repay the debt that he owes, while also living off of like a slice of bread a day. This series was really interesting because usually whenever you start off with like something like that, you're kind of like, oh, this is the synopsis of the story. He's basically sort of forced into becoming a demon hunter so he can pay off this debt. And then it quickly shifts, and he gets betrayed by the mobsters, and they're trying to sacrifice him to a demon. He dies. And whenever he does, he wakes up in a dream, and the little demon pig that he has in front of him is talking to him, and it makes a deal and says, it tells him that I'll give you my heart, and all I want you to do is live out your dreams. This thing had never talked to him before this. So he, of course, cuts the deal, and the thing jumps into his chest, leaving its little tail ripcord pointing out of his chest. And whenever he comes to, he has all these zombies and shit around him, and he pulls it and turns into this like human chainsaw man, if you will. And
I followed,
if you will.
I sent you guys a couple of the images from it.
Yes,
and it's fucking legit. Like the art from it and all of the details that they did in the scene. Like he's just surrounded by a horde of zombies. And he's got like chainsaws for arms, and he's got a chainsaw coming out of his face, and he's just like decimating everything.
I mean, if I'm stuck in zombie apocalypse, I want to have chainsaw arms.
I mean,
and
you're pretty much good to go.
Yeah.
So he easily, with this new form, with this new body, takes care of all of this stuff. And it seems like what the story is going to do now that he's doesn't have to worry about this debt anymore, because the mobsters died in the same incident, that some other demon hunters popped up, found him. One of them realized that he wasn't a demon, and they gave him a deal that she could either vanquish him as a demon, or he could come and work for them and basically, be in their debt. Mm-hmm. But it seems like they're going to be a bit more, nicer to him than these mobsters, and I mean, I'm feeling like he's probably going to be he's going to end up becoming an official demon hunter with them. But it's like the way that they were explaining it is they figured that he was either a demon or possessed by a demon, and the girl immediately realizes, no, he's something different. So this isn't a common occurrence in this series. Like, I guess if people usually find demons, they automatically kill them. Yeah. They don't befriend them or anything like that. So it's definitely one that I'm going to be looking forward to reading.
This is the better version of Pokemon.
That's probably going to be something that they introduce later, because usually whenever they introduce somebody that has some kind of phenomenon, they'll at some point have like the opposite side of the coin. So there might be someone else later on. Right. That's befriended or even controlled, like an even more powerful demon that he's gonna have to fight. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was good. Like we said earlier, you could easily go onto Shonen Jump's website or onto their app and just pay like a $2.99 for this issue and just read this issue. I highly recommend it. I really enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing what it does in the future.
He's got a chainsaw for a face.
Did I show you?
He's got a face saw.
Yeah.
Face saw.
Yep.
It's insane. Only manga does this.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yes.
It was
God bless him.
pretty badass.
He has a chainsaw for a face.
As they do.
I mean, it transforms back into his human face.
Is it like remember those old toys where you'd pull it and it would spin? And it would land on, like, you talk like a dog or whatever. Is like, so when the ripcord sinks back in, does his face go back to normal? Is that how it works?
I don't know. I didn't actually. I just know that it's like sticking out of his. And like whenever he went to transform, like he just like pulled on the ripcord, and he just had fucking chainsaws.
It's how you crank a chainsaw.
Yeah,
we'll probably find that out in the anime.
It's pretty badass. So, but that's what I had. What do you got, Caleb?
That's a good.
Top Chainsaw Man.
I think you have to bottom chainsaw.
Oh god,
probably.
I'm yeah.
We don't know where that little chainsaw is.
Hashtag Tentacle Gang. So, speaking of people who can change their appearances, I'm trying to find the way to segue into this
You
one.
lost it.
I had something, I was going to go there. So my book of the week this week is Martian Manhunter #1 by Steve Orlando, Riley Rossmo, and Ivan Placencia. This was not a small week for DC. I mean, they had Shazam #1 that came out. Another big Batman book, I think, came out. Or was that last week? I had to read some
Batman
stuff.
came out this week.
Yeah, another Batman book came out this week. So kind of a big deal for DC. This book, I was not, like I told you to look out for it last week, but I had high hopes. I didn't know that I was expecting it to live up to the high hopes. And it absolutely did. This book blew my mind. It took everything I knew about the Martian Manhunter, and it didn't throw it out the window, but it reshaped it. It reformed it. It recontextualized it. And just it created something new. So I know we've talked about Steve Orlando books in the past. You guys haven't necessarily been big on them. I like his writing style. I think that he does something different.
He's hit or miss for me.
Yeah, well, and so
sometimes I love his stuff, and sometimes it's a miss.
With his Justice League stuff, I wasn't crazy about it.
Read it.
Dead Kings, he wrote Dead Kings. I liked Dead Kings. I don't think you guys were big on it, but I love his Midnighter and Apollo stuff.
Midnighter and Apollo is fantastic.
This book, he and Riley Rossmo were made to write books together. They did a lot of the Batman, the Shadow stuff together. They're an amazing team. So what happens in this book? Martian Manhunter's back with JLA. And this is going to give you some backstory now that he's kind of back in the full focus. It takes you back to his life on Mars, and it gives you a look at who John Jones was as a family man, he was a police officer on Mars. But he's not the John Jones of the DC universe that we know.
I always called him John Johns.
Is it John Jones?
No, I think you're right.
I don't know.
I always called him John.
See, I call him John Jones because that's what they called him on the cartoon.
No, well, that is probably correct then.
But
I just know he hunts some mans.
he does. It's also why I'm drawn to this character because we share a bond. But no, it takes him back to his life on Mars. But he's not the character we know. So the character we know is very humble. He's very meek. He's driven by his past. He's seen horrors, and he's haunted by them. But it wasn't always that way. John was a crooked cop on Mars. So on Mars they have this kind of, I guess it's supposed to be an analog to mafioso style life, and he's letting people get away with things if they're paying him off. And then he goes home to see his wife and his family. And by the way, I did not know how grotesque / amazing Martian sex is. Because, look, okay, Martians are shapeshifters. And I guess, when you're doing the do and you're just getting really into it, you kind of, you can kind of get into the moment and you lose focus. And when that happens, they lose their bodily autonomy. And they just turn into a blob of weird, disgusting, and also attractive hate fuck.
It was literally one of my favorite pages of the week. It was like a tornado of just like mass just love
Greenness.
And it was like, usually whenever you have any other kind of alien sex in books, it's just very standard as we know it, unless it's Invincible, which was fantastic. But I really love how they made it so much different, with that. I thought it was pretty badass.
Yeah, it's...
I mean, doesn't everyone do that when they have sex? No, just me. Never mind, I am man.
You
am human.
There's a lot of soft, flabby jiggling when I have sex, but not that way.
You don't turn into a tornado of green.
And less green.
Flabbiness.
Less. Not none, but less. I have green tattoos. That's what the joke is.
Oh.
But the reason you're getting this glimpse of this other world is this is a framed narrative, right? So it does not start off on Mars. It starts off today. John he's working with his partner. They're going to go work a murder scene that's particularly grotesque, and his psychic abilities pick up something that he hasn't felt in a long time, and it's something
the presence of Obi-Wan Kenobi.
God, I hope not. That's how they're gonna. Wrong company. You owe Disney $5 now, just for fanboy contractual breakings. But no, so, and he remembers this from his time on Mars when he was a crooked cop taking money, letting these things happen. And it turns out that so we know that there's green Martians, and we know that there are white Martians. White Martians are the typical kind of fascist Nazi analog, wiped out all of the green Martians. But apparently there's yellow Martians now, I think is what they called them in the book, which is this really smaller frame, skeevy looking character that there's a lot going on that we don't know about with these characters yet, and this type of Martian that has their own kind of mental footprint or mental sense that John can pick up on. And so he senses that on Earth at this crime scene, which is horrific. It's mind-boggling horrific, even to the point that it rocks these two hardened detectives. So he remembers all of this time. He's going back and remembers his wife and his kid, and with that, you know what happens to his wife and the kid. They burn to death because of the white Martians. He gets lost in his own memories and kind of gets trapped in this psychic cage. And the problem with this is he's also driving a car in the real world while it happens. Goes off the road, fiery explosion. His partner, who does not know he's a Martian, is like trapped in. By the way, this is a just shit-talking, hardened detective lady, and it's with a bouffant. It's amazing. She's got big hair, drawn the only way that Riley Rossmo can draw.
That is exactly like that first panel that she's in. I was like, oh, this is Riley Rossmo, because that looks like what's her face from
It's kind of that same style. And what was that book called now?
Holy shit!
Deathbed.
Yes.
Deathbed. Thank you.
Very much that same style, very much the same hair. This book is amazing. Anyway, so car's on fire. John has an issue with fire, as we all know, and she realizes that he's a Martian, and that's kind of where the book ends. I'm all in. I am all in on this book. The art is incredible. Riley is at the top of his game. I've been a fan of Riley since I found him on Rasputin. I've spoke on him about the show. I own a piece of his original art. I thought that I was going to go to C2E2 this year and walk away with some other artist stuff to add to my collection. There's a very good chance, if the price is right, I come home with another Riley Rossmo piece. I want a piece out of this book. It is stunning. And we talk sometimes as if you can only do physical art or you can only do digital art. Riley does both. And that's what makes his art so unique and stylized. He draws everything, scans it, and then digitally manipulates it. And that's why you get some of the dot overlays and the digital effects, but it
I
also
did notice
looks
that
real.
none of them had 6 knuckles.
None of them do have 6 knuckles. That's a thing that we'll talk about.
I'll talk about it later.
Something that I kind of want to mention about the writing that I really love, because it really says something, and it speaks life into all these different alien species. Whenever the writers know how to write them well and different, and just make it feel like it's works.
An alien world. Yeah.
One of the coolest things about it, and one of the things that I've wondered about the most about the Martians, is their mind linked.
Right.
And so there's this scene where he goes, what is it, like in a park or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you see all these other thoughts from all these other aliens and stuff like that.
But they also know how, we find out in this book, they know how to fold parts of their mind up and lock it up.
Right.
And one of the problems him and his wife has is that because he's a cop and because he's a dirty cop, he's got a section that he's locked away from her.
Right.
And, of course, that's causing a problem because they can sense that there's a spot that's being locked away.
Yeah.
And it was just really great. And it's one of those things of, like, you automatically feel like you're in an alien world, and it feels, alive. I really like that.
And we get
concept.
to see Mars at its full height of
you get to
civilization and all of that. So.
Retcons are tricky, right? Like, retcons...
But he retconned it without retconning.
That's what makes this work so well, is that it's a subtle retcon. Well, and it changes the world and the character, but in a way that's it adds to it. It doesn't take it on a different track. It just shows you that some more of what was already there, or the possibility.
Go back to the first page since you have it open, and I think his first thing he says is, "Diane, I'm not a good.
He's
I'm not a hero."
Yeah,
but it says Diane. Well, we find out that that's his partner's name.
Right.
I thought he was talking to Wonder Woman.
Oh.
Oh.
When I first read that.
Yeah.
And it's like, I thought that's where they were going with it, that he was, and then of course
Right.
which I'm not saying it, you know.
No, I mean,
Well, I mean, yeah, and then like what the second page is like him on fire or whatever, right? Yeah. So.
yeah, just don't know.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's playing with the building blocks of that character that are already there, and it's enriching it. It takes it on a different path, but not in a way that it necessarily changes any of its history. It just
Right.
adds to what we didn't know,
Right.
and it's wonderfully done. And I love the nuance, like you said. We're all people in relationships here. Imagine if your partner could actually read your thoughts.
Right.
And what would you not want them to find out, or what that would do to your level of trust in that relationship, having an area blocked off from them and telling them, no, it's for your own good. Like, I mean, trust is important to a relationship. And, you know, I don't hide anything from my partner, but I don't necessarily want him living in my brain either.
Right.
There's a lot here to play with. And
Yeah.
And they really do a great job. And often
And
presents
how
it
do
as
you become
colors.
a corrupt cop when everybody can read your mind? And, you
Yeah.
know, I mean, there's a lot of background they can get into here.
I think they're building a huge world here, and it's really going to enrich the character.
I want to point out that before we get any angry texts from anybody, I'm well aware that Wonder Woman's name is Deanna.
Yeah.
When I read that, though, my mind automatically assumed he was talking to Wonder Woman. And then
Diana?
Diana, whatever.
Okay.
Craig has a thing about names. It's who Craig is.
I love you, Craig.
It's whatever.
But no,
You're
I love
reading
this. I love this book,
Shut up, Jared.
and I can't wait. I can't wait to see what they do. This, I'm typically a Marvel guy, right? Like I grew up on Marvel. Between Batman, between the Shazam book that came out this week, which was also fantastic, and the Hawkman series right now.
Yeah.
It's a fun time to learn about DC. Like, at least for me, I'm having a lot of fun learning about. I mean, besides Batman, because I already know a lot about him. Having a great time. Yeah, learning about these different characters.
So they are doing a fantastic job going back through characters that are maybe not A-list characters, but should be, and giving them better backgrounds so that they can be better. Like you said, Hawkman and Martian Manhunter.
And I think that's the beauty of what people are finally starting to realize is that when you have a B or even as far as low as a C-list character who hasn't had time to shine, you have room to play. You don't have to keep retconning the same 4 characters every time because you want to tell this story. I mean, I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but maybe y'all can, or maybe our listeners can. Has there been a retcon or a change of a character that would have been better applied or less shocking to another character? It can be done.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
This story, maybe they wanted to say insert other more popular character alien here to do this story, but no, let's take it to a character we haven't really investigated.
So this thing about DC is Martian Manhunter is actually probably the most powerful being outside of Dr. Manhattan in the DC universe.
Oh, yeah.
True.
He could certainly take out Superman, who is generally considered the most powerful, because he can get inside his brain and shut him off.
Yeah,
you know, I mean, the only thing that affects him is fire.
Yeah,
that's the only weakness I know of that he has.
Superman, Shazam, and Martian Manhunter are arguably the tank of tanks.
Yes.
Like that team are scary.
Yes, if you ever had them on the same team, but they never, for some reason, are.
I always kind of go back to that the scene with him being resurrected as a Black Lantern from Blackest Night.
Oh, yeah.
And I cannot remember who he's fighting, but they try to overpower him or something like that, and he fucking, lifts some ridiculously sized object up, and he's like, people forget that I'm as strong as Superman, and just fucking hawks it at him.
I mean,
yeah.
So, I mean, he's... And then you add mind control powers. He's as strong as Superman.
I feel like he's Superman, but way more interesting.
Superman written right is a very interesting character. The problem is that doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, truth. But yeah, that's my book.
Yeah, it was a great book.
I absolutely loved it, and there's a lot in here, and Martian sex, y'all.
Yeah,
Martian fucking is cool.
It's so.
I mean, it's just a beautifully drawn book. There's so much detail in the back of the panels that you have to spend the time kind of looking and seeing it all. it's something you don't see very often anymore because they're rushing so quickly to get comics out. But
when I see short lists of the best artists working in comics today, and they don't have Riley's name on it, I'm just like, I don't know what you're talking about. Because I'm a huge fan of this guy, but objectively speaking, his art is magnificent. It is something new. It is a stylized display of talent that we don't get very often.
he definitely has a style that's his own that you can recognize it when you see his work.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, when Jerry covered Deathbed all those episodes ago, it was actually the art that caught my eye first when he was talking about the story. I'm like, that's
mine
amazing
too.
Art.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's get away from books that we read this week because they were all fun. We all seem to bring...
Do we have any nods before we...
Shazam was mine. There was a shit ton of books that came out this week that were amazing.
Venom and Green Lantern. Green Lantern, they introduced or reintroduced this character named Volk.
Yeah.
Who has the
volcano
head as a head of a fucking volcano.
Because Grant Morrison.
And he can't carry on a conversation without erupting.
Yeah.
And it was goddamn amazing.
Batman.
Yeah.
It was a decent story until that last page. Did anyone else read?
Oh, yeah.
Batman? And it wasn't just remembering the best of the 80s. It was actually just really fucking cool. Dalton. Tom King wrote a...
What are you talking about? Nine-panel grids don't work.
9-panel grids are classy as fuck, yo. No, shout out to our buddy Dalton, who we do love and dear, but he doesn't like Tom King.
I don't understand that.
I don't understand.
I told him he needs to find someone new to officiate his wedding.
Yeah, can we just go ahead and acknowledge that real quick, though? Spoiler. Fucking Thomas Wayne.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Which we knew he was coming.
Yeah.
I didn't.
I didn't know he was coming.
When did they show? When was that? Did I miss that in all these issues of Batman?
Yeah, the last page with Bane, where there was a Bat 50, where they were showing all the characters that Bane was working with.
Was Thomas Wayne in there?
Thomas Wayne was in that page.
Oh, I
missed him.
Yeah.
100%.
So
shit!
Did he just come back as himself, or are they going to give him that Batman?
Oh, he's in his Batman.
Oh, he's in the Bat suit.
Oh,
yeah, no, he's
with the red and everything.
Well,
like,
then,
yeah.
I don't know much about Thomas Wayne outside of a Flashpoint Paradox movie.
Yeah,
Well, that's who it is.
I know that's what I mean, but I missed that in the other issue.
A little back, going back into that before we get too far away, you had that booster story where he went back and you showed him a little bit of what that character was dealing with Thomas Wayne. And then, in the Bane, I think it was Batman 50 with all those characters. Yeah, Thomas Wayne was all up in that.
Oh, okay.
Either I forgot or it did not click who that was. I don't know. Okay. But it surprised me, so fuck you.
It surprised me too, Sean.
Yeah, Caleb.
Prodigy came out, which is Mark Millar book. It was pretty good. I'm hoping it's not a typical Mark Millar book that starts off really well, and then he doesn't know what to do with it because he's kind of become an idea guy lately, where he has these fantastic ideas but doesn't know how to write the story. So I'm hoping that's not the case. But
Doomsday Clock.
Doomsday Clock was amazing.
Ooh. I guess I didn't get that in my stack for some reason. I don't know.
It was crazy because none of it touched on any of the Watchmen characters, and they just had this whole story with Superman and Firestorm.
Yeah.
Being in Russia. And
Yeah,
stuff like that.
it was pretty. It's pretty much Civil War. What started Civil War in Marvel?
Yeah,
that happened in Doomsday.
Yeah,
I'm running out of reasons to care.
Oh,
it was a good issue.
I don't know why you're not caring because it's a fantastic story.
But yeah,
maybe the time frame it takes to get out. But
it takes 4 months to get an issue out that has nothing to do with anything that happened before.
But it's all going to tie together.
I'm sure it will. I don't know that it will.
Allow them to tell their narrative, Caleb.
I'm running out of reasons to care, which is why I didn't notice when it wasn't my stack.
Yeah.
And it's their major event. That's a problem for them.
The problem is that it's taken too long to get it out between issues. That's the problem.
And then last on my list would be Sword Daughter.
So good.
Bow down to this book.
Is the girl with the covered eye, that's her grown up, I'm assuming.
I think so.
I ain't gonna lie. I was super happy it came out. That was my pick for getting ahead of ourselves last episode. I'm super fucking lost. I think I need to reread it. Now that if it's going to start coming back out on a regular basis, I need to go back and read them all because I think you're right, but I'm not sure.
I don't think it's revealed.
I know. I think
maybe that. I just feel lost.
I think
I'm interested, but I'm lost. I'm confused.
I want to say the last issue that came out, there was a time jump at the end of it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I hate. I'm sorry.
But it goes back to the being kid.
And maybe this is just a statement on my simpleness, honestly, when I read, because I admit that I don't always pick up on subtle clues when I'm reading. if it's not saying 5 years later or 5 years ago,
sometimes
I get lost. I get easily lost.
And
I
think
the book needs it.
I think that
book
book
take a fucking hiatus like they did.
Yeah,
I
in
think
between
it's
3 and
doing that.
4, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they took a long
It's
break.
odd.
But like, maybe that'll help me and other simple readers out there like myself.
It was so
I
good, though.
I was confused. It was great. I'm hyped. I'm glad it's back. But like, I'm not. I think that is her in the future, but I don't know.
And she's talking.
She is talking, not just with symbols.
I love this book.
Oh, I'm so invested. I'm happy, but I'm reading. I'm like, I think I know what's going on. I'm not sure.
I think that's her. I'm not 100% positive, but I think it's her.
What's her name? Nesdeth?
I don't know.
Or
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth?
Elsbeth.
Yeah.
Elspeth.
So,
Elspeth,
Craig,
thank you.
what are you reading next week, buddy?
Can we just keep talking? No.
Yes, about what you're reading this week.
Yeah. Miles Morales, Spider-Man, issue number 1.
Oh, nice.
It's I'm not going to say a reboot, but they're obviously starting over with a new creative team. For me, I'm just interested to see somebody else's take of Miles when he's not in a team, because so far all we've had is Bendis' take on him and his solo. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Nice. Well, I'm going to go on a little bit of a horror tangent, something that I don't normally do. But it's a book that I'm interested in because Cullen Bunn is going to be writing it. And it's Vampirella versus the Reanimator.
Interesting.
Number 1, Colin Munn's writing horror. I'm so shocked.
Right. But
I am shocked that he's writing that book, though.
it's Vampirella versus the Reanimator. Like, what's not amazing about that? It's from Dynamite Entertainment. It's got Blackie Shepherd's doing the art, which I'm familiar with him, but I can't for the life of me remember from where right now. That name sounds so familiar, but I just can't place the book, and I didn't look it up beforehand. It's Vampirella versus the Reanimator. Like, this is fucking
So
amazing.
this is something that Dynamite is doing a lot of right now. You had Hack Slash teamed up with Vampirella.
Yeah.
And right now you have Hack Slash versus Chaos. So all of the old Chaos characters, she's fighting all of them. So her and Vlad. Except Evil Ernie's on their side.
I hear good things about Hack Slash. I really do.
You really do. I've got the entire first 4 volumes. It was supposed to be the complete set before they decided to do more. So I've got it all in there whenever you're ready.
One day when I get caught up on my reads.
Wasn't that Joe? I'm not Stephen King's son, but
No,
I am
Joe
Hill.
No, it's Tim Seeley.
Oh, okay.
Right. Well, for me next week is going to be Avengers number 11. This is going to be the conclusion of the world tour, as they're calling it, where we're going to get a international superhero summit. I'm actually pretty excited about that because like I'm hoping to see more like when they did they had the issue where they met the heroes of China.
Right.
It's like those are characters like some of them rang a little familiar, but like I wasn't super familiar with them. So I'm hoping that we're going to see some more cool stuff like that.
Yeah.
Where they're dealing with obviously the effects of Namor being a fucking fish dick. Yeah, it flipped me off.
Did you say fish sticks?
Fish sticks. I'm a genius. Fish sticks. Bonus, She-Hulk and Thor try to go on a date, and I still want them to have their Thor babies.
More smashing.
Smashing. Lots of smashing.
So my book of next week is something that I mentioned last week whenever I talked about Black Hammer Age of Doom.
Yeah.
Cthu-Louise.
Yeah, I knew you were going to choose that one. That's why I didn't.
Cthu-Louise comes out next week. And
I almost blocked you.
I'm ready.
I almost picked it on purpose. But I knew you were going to choose it.
I had other options, maybe.
No, you didn't.
No, he had nothing.
I did. I'm sure there's a Spider-Verse.
Yeah. Either there's something that Donny Cates wrote that you can talk about.
Can we talk about, just for a second, since we went back to Donny Cates, Eddie Brock walking Venom as a fucking pit bull dog.
Oh my god, I
know. the symbiote as a dog on its own.
Yeah.
I think like
that was
like
pretty.
The chain was what was connecting them.
Yeah.
Still, right?
Yeah.
Side note, finally watched Venom last night.
Yeah.
Strong, okay.
A strong, okay.
Very,
very, very mediocre.
Lot of plot.
In the range,
but
in the range of
not bad.
Yeah, I mean, I felt
okay.
Did you watch it on Plex?
Yeah.
Okay. In the range of watching things, I finally finished Rebels.
Yeah.
And Craig and I talked about it.
And I started.
And I fucking wept.
That last season, the second half of the last season.
Oh man, yeah. Oh, that was
Yep.
That was gut wrenching. And then I started Resistance, which I'm digging.
It's
so far.
okay.
Yeah,
I figured
I'm
you'd
ready
like it
for it
better
to
than
pick
me
up.
because it's more of an anime style.
But it took a while for Rebels to pick up as well. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to give it time. I'm just trying to find the time to get back to it.
I binged watched all of the Chilling Tales of Sabrina this past weekend.
Nice.
I watched Netflix, guys.
Yeah.
It's so
And
funny.
it was wonderful.
Yeah.
I hear good things.
It is fantastic. I highly recommend
Is
it.
it better than Riverdale?
God, yes.
Okay.
And
I'll
I
give
like
it a shot
Riverdale,
then.
but God, yes, it's
Okay,
better.
I'll give it a
It
shot.
kind of made me want to watch Riverdale, but you're saying I shouldn't watch
No,
Riverdale?
I love Riverdale,
Yeah, okay.
but this is better.
Gotcha.
One last little thing I just remembered like halfway through our Book of the Week discussions. A news story we did not bring up that I'm surprised Caleb didn't. What is good in Marvel?
Oh, yeah, we got Conan coming up
Yeah.
very soon. I don't think that comes out till January, though.
But
Still, the
he's
news
going to
dropped.
be in the actual...
Oh, yeah, no, we
Yeah.
like I put this
I'm
on
surprised
the...
we didn't talk about it.
I put it on our Facebook page.
Listen, there are
There,
people that listen to the show that don't like us on Facebook.
well, there are
Hate
people
us
who
on
like us on
They
Facebook who
hate
don't
us.
listen to the show. I don't understand that either.
I just wanted to at least get your
Either wholly like us or don't like us.
There are people that don't listen to the show and don't like us on Facebook, and we don't know who they are. So.
No,
Conan coming to the Marvel Universe.
yeah, they're going to show him in part of this No Road Home. I'm sure it's just going to be an overlap of some type of weird timey-wimey thing where the Avengers get dropped into the Hyborian Age. They've done it before. Don't freak out. It's happened.
I so want Conan, Thor, and Hercules to go into
Yes.
a bar together and drink all the ale.
I want Conan, Thor, and Hercules to do a lot of things together.
Bang. Drink all the ale, bane all the women, bane all of each other.
Yes, just jump in a big naked muscle pile. I'm happy about it. All right,
he
so
left Namor out of that. It's weird.
Namor will get
Where are you?
destroyed.
Namor is going to be with me.
Namor will be destroyed. in
Anyway,
that
so
battle.
we're
Being a fish
way
stick.
over time, way over time on this show, and I'm not going to be able to cut all this out. So we about ready to bring this thing home, guys.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
And by that I mean there's no option. We have to. I'm tired. I want to go to sleep. Guys, we hope you've had the fun the last 2 hours and 15 minutes hanging out with us because we've had fun hanging out the last 2 hours and 15 minutes. I don't know if we've mentioned this on the show yet or not, but we have a Facebook page.
And Caleb's dying.
I am dying. We would like to invite you all to come hang out with us on social media. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, mainly questions or comments, send them to southernfriedgeekery@gmail.com. Other than that,
Or
man,
just send them to @gmail.com.
yeah, just send your complaints go to @gmail.com. All of those, or Jerry D. Smith.
Hey.
All right. So other than that, go forth, rock on, love some comics. Woo, woo! Beat you, motherfucker!
Ah! You.